together and created a commission called America 250 to plan the 250th. They built it to be nonpartisan on purpose, so no president could ever make the country's birthday his own. The America 250 Commission was well underway to honor the anniversary with expertly planned festivals, activities, and unifying events to celebrate our country and its founding. Then, Donald Trump decided he wanted something different. He wanted a party he could use for his own personal, political, and financial gain. So first, he tried to take over America 250. His appointee to the commission teamed up with the Speaker of the House in an attempt to push 4 commissioners out of their seats and replace them with MAGA loyalists. When that didn't work, Trump created his own shadow entity to circumvent and supplant America 250. They call it Freedom 250. On paper, it's a shell company registered in Delaware through the same anonymous vendor the president uses for his other businesses. But this LLC is different. It was lodged inside the National Park Foundation, the charity that's funded our national parks for 50 years. Think about why you'd do that. As part of a charity, the LLC could take in huge sums of money without ever naming who or together and created a commission called America 250 to plan the 250th. They built it to be nonpartisan on purpose, so no president could ever make the country's birthday his own. The America 250 Commission was well underway to honor the anniversary with expertly planned festivals, activities, and unifying events to celebrate our country and its founding. Then, Donald Trump decided he wanted something different. He wanted a party he could use for his own personal, political, and financial gain. So first, he tried to take over America 250. His appointee to the commission teamed up with the Speaker of the House in an attempt to push 4 commissioners out of their seats and replace them with MAGA loyalists. When that didn't work, Trump created his own shadow entity to circumvent and supplant America 250. They call it Freedom 250. On paper, it's a shell company registered in Delaware through the same anonymous vendor.
I heard from Donald Trump yesterday, and then I heard from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and I was ashamed. Ashamed of my own president. Think about who this guy is. A lifetime of being a bully, multiple bankruptcies, who knows how many financial victims were left behind along the way, and then he becomes president of the United States. It's like the proverbial kid in the candy store, except now he's not just grabbing candy. He's the top dog, the guy who's calling all the shots for the country with the strongest economy and the strongest military on the planet. Trump insisted on a set of insulting demands. One of them tried to weaken Canada's protections for the French language and Quebec culture. Not tariffs, not trade balances. He went after their culture. He's acting like he's not only the president of our country, but theirs as well. And that didn't go down well. Specifically, Canada's subsidies for French language culture, the prevalence of French language media online, even the requirement for bilingual labels on products sold in their own country. Trump wanted that watered down in a trade deal about tariffs. And Carney said no. He found it insulting. Flat out, no. And in so many words, it was very strong. In so many words, he was just saying, who the fuck do you think you are? And then there's Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford. Trump went after him too. And Ford wasn't having it. He told Trump, and I'm quoting here, that Trump could just kiss his ass. And then he went right for the jugular. He brought up Trump's business failures, his bankruptcies. He hit Trump with the one word that actually gets under his skin: loser. So this is what happens when the only tool you have is a hammer. Everything else looks like a nail. Every negotiation becomes a threat. Every disagreement becomes a fight. And when you finally run into somebody who won't fold, a Carney, a Ford, you don't know what to do except call them names on social media. Canada did not back down. Ontario didn't back down. And the world is watching a country that built its reputation on strength, yet outmaneuvered by its calmer, quieter neighbor to the north. It's not winning, Mr. President, and the whole world is taking notes. I hope that you will too, and I hope that you will help us make America a democracy again. Love to have you join up on our 99-cent project. Onward.
Okay, now play someone good. Okay, I know you're really skeptical.
Has Joe Biden ever found glee in deporting people and bragged about it? Has Joe Biden ever sold vehicles in front of the White House and hired a tech billionaire who donated $300 to $400 million for his campaign? Did Joe Biden ever do any of that stuff?
Just checking in. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I am a Republican who voted for Donald Trump.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, politics to me nowadays is like a marriage where it's 50-50. And is there any way, do you think, the Republicans and Democrats will ever agree on anything again in the near future?
Not if Donald Trump is president of the United States, because he's the guy who has nicknames against people he disagrees with. What you need somebody in office like a Bill Clinton. And while I didn't like Bill Clinton personally, he left his office with a surplus, and he was probably the best president of my lifetime as far as being and a lot of Republicans would agree with me, by the way, as far as working with the other side. My definition of he's the divider in chief, but that's the best. Now let me ask you a question, sir, if I may. And listen, I appreciate you calling in. You voted for Trump. I'm not here to attack you for that, while we might disagree. What is it that, in your opinion, why did you vote for Donald Trump, if you don't mind me asking, William?
If you want to know the truth,
yep.
My mom voted her last time a week before she died for Donald Trump.
Okay.
So I kind of vote partially because my mom voted for him. And the other thing is, being a CPA, I think the country financially needs help. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Well, let me respond to that, but let me say the most important thing. I'm sorry for the loss of your mother. I'm sorry to hear that, William.
She had a great life.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, but I'm sorry for your loss. Regardless of who your mom voted for or not, you're talking about now the economy. So Donald Trump put us $8.2 trillion in debt in his first administration. We look at the first 7 weeks of this administration, biggest tax breaks for the top 1%. Egg prices are up, inflation is up, groceries are up, gas prices are up throughout the country. People are losing their jobs, their 401ks are going down the toilet. So I guess my question to you is, what made you, your mother aside for a moment, with respect, what made you think that Donald Trump was going to help middle-class Americans and help the economy when you saw what he did in his first administration? I guess that's my question.
Okay. The middle class, from doing income taxes for 40 years, I have a good variety of people I've dealt with, friends and otherwise.
Yep.
And the middle class right now, in my opinion only, everybody in this country, and I grew up in Westlake Village, California, does not have it easy anymore financially.
And who do you blame? And who do you blame? And what do you assert that to? Like, who do you blame for that? You blame Joe Biden for that?
I would never blame him for anything, even though I'm a Republican, because I don't think that he was in charge.
Okay, so William, I don't know what that means, but here's what I would ask you. Let's get specific, if that's okay, my friend. What are the policies under Donald Trump that you said to yourself, I love that policy? And what was it about Kamala Harris that you said, I hate that policy? Just one example. We don't have to go through like 20 of them. But is that fair? Give me one of each where you say, I like that policy, I hate that one. Is that fair?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Kamala Harris, I don't believe, and this is my opinion again, is a financial person.
Okay, but hold on, William. That's your opinion, and you're entitled to it, even though I disagree with you. But give me a policy under Kamala Harris that would lead you to believe that, something she campaigned on that would lead you to believe she doesn't know what she's doing financially.
Okay, she might not have campaigned on it, but the border has cost a lot of money, and I don't know, you don't have to agree with me, but I think the rise in population from the 50s when I was born is partially responsible for everything, because there's so many more people to control.
Okay, I understand.
Follow the rules.
William, I understand you want to talk about the border, but that's a Republican and Democrat problem. And by the way,
no, financial, you said.
Okay, I understand that, but financial, and now you're talking about the border, and you're making the case, I guess, that illegals that cross the border are killing our economy. Meanwhile, if you care about the economy, which I believe you're being sincere when you say you care about the economy, how could you think that 25% tariffs are going to help the American economy when American consumers like you and me are going to be bearing the brunt of it? Why would you think that deporting a bunch of undocumented immigrants. Many of these people are nonviolent criminals that pay taxes, that have been here for decades, that are doing the jobs that most Americans don't want to do. If you claim you care about the economy, and I believe you're being sincere when you say that, why would you support a guy who's implementing these 25% tariffs, and no economist, even Republicans, are saying this is a bad idea? I just want to hear a policy from you on Kamala, which I haven't heard yet. But on the contrary, why would you support a guy who's tanking our economy right now?
Okay, I think there can be short-term pain for long-term gain. Do you agree with that in general?
So in some cases, I agree with you. But when you talk about 25% tariffs, this is long-term pain. When you talk about the $8.2 trillion that Donald Trump put us in when he was president, that's long-term pain. We still haven't recovered from that. So while I agree that, yes, in some instances there's going to be short-term pain, I don't see that happening with what he's doing with Canada, with Mexico, burning bridges with our allies. I just think it's not going to be short-term. I think it's going to be long-term. We already know that a lot of Americans are under a lot of pain right now. And if we're talking about economic growth, look at the infrastructure bill that Joe Biden put in place. Look at the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Look at unemployment numbers, the lowest they were in 50 years. Look at the wage gap, and I don't know. So, okay, let's go back to my original question, because I know you said a concern of yours is the border. Can you give me a specific policy that you like under Trump and a policy under Kamala Harris that you dislike? Because I think we went a little in the weeds there. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. The one thing that I like about Trump is to get the debt down. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that. So getting the interest payment.
But hold on. But sir, I understand you want to, quote, get the debt down. We all want the debt to be down. I want to know a policy that he has implemented that you think will, quote, get the debt down. Because if you care about debt, Republicans are the ones that put us 4 times more in debt than Democrats when they're presidents. You could look that up if you don't believe me. Trump got us $8.2 trillion in debt. So what policy has Donald Trump implemented that you would say, boy, he's really going to get that debt down?
Right. Now, I can't argue with you on the tariffs because I don't know how they work and what the long-term effect is.
Understood.
I'll be honest.
Okay, understood. So give me a policy that you think would lead you to believe that the man who got us $8.2 trillion in debt and got us more in debt than virtually any other living president, but you said to yourself, this is the guy that's going to get us out of debt. What was it that made you feel that way? What policy?
That he's willing to do the toughest thing in the world, which is to fire people and reduce spending.
And you think
it's hard. Do you agree it's hard to fire somebody?
Not if you're Donald Trump, because he brags about it and gloats about it. But so you think with all the debt that we are in right now, right? The $6 trillion plus in debt we're in, you think saving $10, $15, $20 million and firing a bunch of veterans and those who work for the government, who, by the way, I've interviewed some of these people who haven't done anything wrong. That's your answer to getting us out of debt? $7 trillion in debt, and you think firing some government workers is your 80,000 employees? You think that's the answer?
I think the answer could only be done in the long run.
So that's it. $7 trillion in debt, and the reason why you voted for him from an economic perspective is you like Doge and you like the firings of innocent people that haven't done anything wrong, some of them government workers, most of them government workers and people that serve this country, and you think that's the key that's going to get us $7 trillion? That's not even 0.5%. If they fired every government worker, it wouldn't even be 0.5% of the debt that we're in now. That's why I'm confused. Help me understand.
Right now, my dad worked on the electron microscope for the VA for 30 years, so I know how bad the VA has been run personally.
Okay, I understand that, and God bless your father.
No veteran, I will agree with you, no veteran should ever be fired after serving this country from a government job unless there's a reason.
And guess what?
Ever.
Donald Trump, I agree with you. Guess what? Donald Trump isn't doing that. I've spoken to veterans and I've spoken to people across the country who've called into this show who have lost their jobs, who have never been written up, who have never done anything wrong, and they have lost their jobs. So Trump is doing what you don't want him to do. Okay, so let's put that off to the side. If Donald Trump fired 80,000 people today, it wouldn't even be a sliver of the debt that we're in. Give me a policy under Kamala Harris that you said, I cannot vote for this woman because I hate this policy.
I'm not sure what she did as vice president, and I won't lie to you.
So you can't name any policies that Kamala was running on, and the one policy with respect you like under Donald Trump, even though you just admitted that you disagree with some of the firings, is firing a bunch of government workers to get us out of debt. And when I ask you with respect, William, because I do appreciate you calling in, what policies under Kamala Harris you didn't like? What was it about Kamala Harris you didn't like? You can't name me anything?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. To reduce fraud and waste, I personally knew from my grandfather that when they did government contracts in the lumber, he did trusses, the government was so stupid. This is in the 20s and 30s. They never took the
okay, but William, I hear you. William, I hear you.
They
Let's put
don't
that.
know how to run a business.
William, let's
the
put.
Government is incompetent.
And Donald Trump is the guy that knows how to run a business when so many of his casinos filed for bankruptcy.
Evan, what it do? Shout out to you in the chat. Let's go. Let's get them likes up, folks.
And his Trump Meat and Trump University and Trump Water and all the businesses that filed for bankruptcy. But you just mentioned a very key word, fraud. Last I checked in the United States of America, fraud is illegal. Can you name me one person that the Trump administration has called out and DOJ has called out for fraud that they have referred to prosecutors? Can you name me one person where they've showed evidence of fraud? Because fraud is a crime in the United States of America. Who's committing the fraud? Who have they announced?
Right. I don't think there's been time to uncover the fraud. Normally when that happens, it's pretty well.
Wait a second. Donald Trump has said they've discovered, quote, hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud. So if you're making the case that they haven't had enough time, then why has Donald Trump said time and time again in the last 2 months, we've
More disturbing details are coming to light about accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's secret storage lockers. We've talked about this before, but now we're talking pornography, lab results, sex slave manuals, and by the way, the most chilling of all, it is reported these storage units were never searched by authorities. We may now have an idea about all this material that was stored in at least one unit, and I will tell you, it is disturbing. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So earlier this week, we covered a report by The Telegraph that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly stashed away materials in secret storage lockers in the United States, potential evidence that was reportedly never fully recovered. And we have just learned new information about what one of those storage units may have contained, and this adds just another disturbing dimension to this entire saga. And according to the outlet, this is such a big part, it appears the FBI may have never searched them. So as we talk about, should there be further investigations? Is there evidence against anybody else? Just something to think about, right? Now, according to DOJ documents and reporting from the New York Post, Epstein had paid private investigators to remove items from his Palm Beach, Florida property, including multiple computers, films, pornographic material. And by the way, the timing is key. This was allegedly to hide all of this ahead of a 2005 police raid. Remember, around this time is when he was being investigated after the family of a teenager, a 14-year-old girl, reported that she was molested at his home. 2008, he ends up pleading guilty to solicitation of prostitution and solicitation of prostitution of a minor. This is that sweetheart deal where he avoids the federal charges. By the way, I have to say, if these allegations are true, it raises serious questions of potential liability. Hiding potential evidence where there's a pending criminal case, an active investigation. But now we have to talk about the storage locker. So the items were then reportedly kept at a nearby Palm Beach storage facility. And now an inventory reportedly shows what Epstein seemingly wanted hidden, maybe from authorities, at his Palm Beach property. And this is again as he was being investigated on child sex crimes over 20 years ago. And by the way, some of those items detectives reportedly had found receipts for during the raid, but never actually recovered them. So I want to be clear about something. The Telegraph had first reported on the Palm Beach storage locker inventory, but we found the actual document in the Epstein files from an October 2009 email that was sent to Epstein's lawyer, Roy Black, from a member of the private investigation agency that he hired. William Riley is a key member there. And this was roughly 3 months after Epstein was released from that 13-month prison sentence for solicitation charges. But I want to go through this together, okay? And I'm going to warn you right now, some of this is unsettling, to say the least. Okay. Here's how the email begins. On October 7, 2005, investigator Paul Lavery visited the residence of Jeff Epstein and, pursuant to the instructions of attorney Roy Black, removed items of potential evidentiary value from his home. These items were subsequently turned over to investigator William Riley for inventory and safekeeping purposes. By the way, before you even get into the items that were removed, according to the Telegraph,
All this let you know is a bunch of people conspiring to cover this shit up. Period.
it seems authorities had known that Epstein may have done this because the outlet refers to a 2010 deposition from a civil case that was filed against Epstein by a Jane Doe. We found this transcript in the Epstein files. Here's how this questioning went. So Epstein's asked, prior to the Palm Beach police executing a search warrant on your house in October of 2005, did you direct redacted to remove at least 3 computers from your home? Mr. Pike, form. Jeffrey Epstein answers, though I would like to answer all your questions, Mr. Edwards, my attorneys, at least today, have advised me I must assert my rights under the 6th, 5th, and 14th Amendment. Due process, right against self-incrimination. Question, where are those computers today? Mr. Pike, form, answer, though I would like to answer all your questions, my attorneys have advised me I must assert my rights under the 6th, 5th, and 14th Amendment. Question, isn't it true that within that computer system were the names and telephone numbers of hundreds of underage minor females that you sexually molested? And of course, Epstein says the same kind of response. So I want to go back to the email and see what was apparently inside that storage facility. The items removed from Epstein's house were 3 different computers, including 2 Dells and 1 HP Pavilion. Okay, now before we move on, it is worth noting that copies of 2 of the computer hard drives were apparently recovered by the FBI years later, but again, remains unknown if any of the material in that storage unit was ever found by authorities or if they ever raided it. Moving on, over 24 telephone directories. 1 metal HS 8mm tape with notations, including some photos, floor exercises, 2 jokes, dancing, shower, lingerie, and goodbye. Now I gotta note, hours of footage from the Epstein tapes have been released by the DOJ. You're talking lengthy periods of pornography, alleged victims taking videos in sexual positions, even children. But this specific tape may very well have been missing. I mean, in the files is a redacted email that says the following. Highly responsive material breakdown. Over 1 million images and videos were extracted from Epstein's devices. Approximately 34,000 were marked responsive. Approximately 15 to 20 images of CSAM, child sexual abuse material, less than 1%. Approximately 90% of the files are adult pornography, adult erotica, aged difficult pornography and erotica. In and of itself, it would be pretty disgusting, but you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, so it takes on kind of a different meaning. I want to move on. 3 printed pages titled Individual Directory Listing, Massage, Florida. Okay, we know that massage work has been a common theme throughout Epstein's allegations, right? Court records show that Epstein maintained dedicated massage rooms in multiple residences, spaces that prosecutors say were used in the facilitation of child sex crimes. So the idea of having a masseuse directory, not surprising, very uneasy. Let's continue. The inventory. Various different photographs, including 1 black and white photograph on white female lying nude wicker couch, 1 color photograph of white female standing nude in bedroom, 3 color photographs of 2 white females nude in the shower, 1 black and white photograph of partially nude white female with happy birthday written on it, 1 black and white photograph of partially nude white female, 1 black and white photograph of partially nude white female, 1 black and white photograph of white female, 1 color photograph of partially nude white female, 1 black and white photograph of white female written on back, Jeffrey, it's redacted, you better never forget about me. May 28th, we'll be traveling. Love, heart always, class of 2005. Now we're going to get to the magazine shortly, but throughout our Epstein Files coverage at Sidebar, we have seen a trove of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and redacted individuals where there are sexual pictures that were asked to be sent, okay? And there is a large portion of those photos that were either partially or fully redacted to protect the victims here. But you have to wonder if he ended up printing these pictures out, maybe storing them at these storage facilities. I don't know. I mean, just to give you an idea about this, we did a whole sidebar on the collection of some really gross Jeffrey Epstein emails, including this one. This is from Epstein, 2015. It says, now that I understand, try to take some nude photos, be open, brave, sexy, wild, dance, jump, have fun, live. The response back, okay, I asked my friend, so she will take some sexy photos tonight or tomorrow. You got this response from Jeffrey Epstein. I think that you should take some of yourself first. Now, I want you to be free with yourself. First, I think you should study English, go online, there are many classes, then take the TOEFL test. The photos should not be porn, but should be sexy. Do you watch porn? Redacted, for example? You want to be free without being porn, but laugh, have fun. You're going to be 22, not 14 years old. Just to put that into context for you. Keep going through this. Magazines, including Purely 18, year 2000. Only 18, Barely Legal, Hustlers, January 2000. Now look, these in and of themselves are not illegal to own, assuming the women are at least 18 years of age. Though the one titled Barely Legal is obviously eyebrow raising at the very least. One book titled Complete Slave, Creating and Living an Erotic, Dominant, Submissive Lifestyle. One book titled Training with Miss Abernathy, a workbook for erotic slaves and their owners. Annual Guide to NYC Erotica, Sexy New York City 2000. 11 different boxes including labels of sex toys. By the way, when I was thinking of that one, I was thinking, is there any, hate to say it, forensic material that could have been found on those sex toys, right, if you're talking about a sexual abuse case. Now, there is such a thing as dominant and submissive dynamics when it comes to different sexual role-playing, of course, and it could be a consensual act, but remember, Epstein was jailed twice. He had the sex charges, once in the early 2000s, as I mentioned, the solicitation charges in Florida. And then he was arrested in 2019. He was in jail awaiting trial on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy. So seeing he allegedly had 2 books on erotic slavery and domination in and of itself is disturbing, but you can also play into the idea of sex trafficking, right? As the theme around erotic slavery includes limitations on one's autonomy, freedom of movement, power to decide matters related to their own sexual activity. Is it elite? Maybe, but I gotta call it out. And by the way, I gotta call this out too. We did a previous episode of Sidebar about these communications that raised this theory that Epstein was growing toxic plants, that these toxic plants contained scopolamine. It's tied to memory loss, confusion, which would arguably limit one's autonomy, their free will. Let's continue on. VHS tapes, including 30 VHS tapes of pornography, empty DVD of pornography, South Park Volume 5, South Park Volume 4, The Witches of Eastwick, 1/22/99 main house video, don't know why that specific date, but it's weird, Rush Hour, Madonna, The Trackers, Raging Bull, Beyond Rangoon, Not So Great Moments in Sports. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Epstein tapes released by the DOJ included long segments of pornography. Several of the websites seen in these videos contain the word teen, which, again, you have to question if these porn sites were even legal. But again, we don't know exactly what was on these pornography tapes. But again, they were inventoried, they were taken out. I do want to take a closer look at some of the movies included here because their summaries kind of stand out to me. So I want to start with The Witches of Eastwick. Here's a summary from Rotten Tomatoes, okay? 3 small-town friends, Alexandra, Cher, Jane, Susan Sarandon, and Suki, Michelle Pfeiffer, each having lost the man in their lives, are feeling unfulfilled until a furtive stranger, Daryl Van Horn, Jack Nicholson, arrives and begins courting each of them in turn. Eventually, Daryl tells them that they are witches. But as the 3 friends spend more time in his mansion, enjoying themselves and learning about their powers, they begin to worry about Daryl's ultimate intentions. Now, there are several different connections here. First, I just gotta say, Epstein could have just liked the movie, sure. But Epstein had multiple different properties. Palm Beach Mansion, Little St. James, right? Epstein's Island. The idea of this film, including women feeling unfulfilled and then a stranger comes along, begins courting them, and they begin to spend more time in his mansion, realize something's up. Sounds like based on the allegations that Epstein was facing. His playbook? The Trackers, I mentioned this film. Here's a summary of the film. It's on IMDb. A rancher comes home and finds that his son has been murdered and his daughter kidnapped by a bandit gang. He hires a professional tracker with a reputation for finding his quarry to help him find the gang and rescue his daughter. Now, I just want to make a note that this movie is centered around a ranch, and we have previously covered on Sidebar all of the theories surrounding, the allegations surrounding Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, where he allegedly sexually assaulted minors, even allegedly hid dead bodies. Now, could just obviously be a coincidence. Again, maybe he liked this movie, but knowing what is out there, unsettling coincidence. Also, by the way, the idea of a professional tracker in this film is interesting because it's alleged that Epstein at one point had set up and later removed technology connected to secret surveillance cameras from his Palm Beach mansion, fueling speculation that he was secretly spying on either house guests or victims, law enforcement, maybe everybody. Again, could I be stretching? Sure. But I mean, if it's true that he removed all of these items ahead of law enforcement's 2005 raid, this would have to mean he was onto them in some capacity. By the way, I just have to say this in that vein. You got this email from 2014 where Epstein writes, seemingly to a staffer, it could be Larry Visosky, his pilot, let's get 3 motion-detected hidden cameras that record, thanks. The response back from Larry is, Jeffrey, I already purchased the motion sensor camera from the Spy store in Fort Lauderdale yesterday. I changed them last night and figuring out how to work them as we speak. It's amazing how small they are, the size of thumbnail drive, 64-hour recording, motion sensor. I'm installing them into Kleenex boxes now. I'll bring them by later today. Last movie I want to point out in the list is Beyond Rangoon, and here's a summary from Rotten Tomatoes. After the shocking murders of his husband and son, Laura Bowman, Patricia Arquette, travels to Burma and her sister Andy, Frances McDormand, to find peace. There she witnesses protests against the government and the military's violent response. When Burma enters into military lockdown, Laura loses her passport and is unable to leave the country. A professor, Leon Ko, helps her, but this makes her a target of the government as she attempts to reach the border and cross into Thailand. Now, I just want to make note that several of Epstein's accusers came from foreign countries, and it's alleged that he recruited minors internationally, some of them being aspiring models and students. So in this film, a professor coming to the main character's assistance to help escape a foreign country, and it's alleged Epstein even helped victims with visa assistance, college tuition, other career connections as part of a larger means of grooming. Am I stretching? Again, I don't know, just weird. Okay, by the way, if you thought this inventory list was done, no, there's a lot more I gotta go through. Okay, 3 Brookstone massagers, 4 unboxed sex toys, clothing items including 2 black silk thongs, 1 white silk thong, 1 silver-colored chain with clip, 1 pair of women's black hose, I'm assuming pantyhose, 1 pair of black underwear. So from the looks on this portion of the inventory list, all of the items have some intimate nature to them, right? Massagers, sex toys, lingerie. We don't know where these items came from. I go back to my point. I don't know if they have forensic material on them that could have been tested. I don't know, were they used or worn by victims themselves? And they were items that Epstein was collecting. I don't know, were they items bought by him? We can really only speculate at this point. But here's a disturbing document found in the Epstein files that may shed some light. So the top of the document is redacted along with the date of birth below it, but the subject line says Royal Palm Beach High School, 2 dates, 2005 and 2004. So this would be around the time that authorities had raided his Palm Beach property. It reads, summary of activity, brought to massage, Epstein by, was told to get undressed, stayed in thong, panties, provided massage wearing her thong. Epstein rubbed her private area over thong with a sex toy. Epstein then pleasured himself. Number of sessions, 1 connections to other girls, brought to Epstein's house. Now, in that email alone, there are several items of identical nature used in a sex act, and we can speculate that it was potentially a high schooler based on the subject line there, and it could have been very well taken place in Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. And when you look at documents like these, it just gives us a glimpse into what potentially took place on that property. Continuing on with the inventory, 1 frame picture of a white female, 1 desk tray with pens, pencils, tape recorder, blank tape, bullets, etc. So some of those things sound like, typical office items, though it's not clear who the woman in the picture frame that he allegedly wanted hidden. And also strange that bullets were grouped into that list. It's also unclear if these are bullets from a firearm or something else. What we do know is that a big chunk of the videos found in the Epstein files included women dancing in Epstein's property, though the women in those videos were redacted for protection purposes. And with things like a tape recorder and a blank tape allegedly taken from his Palm Beach mansion, you gotta wonder if the same types of activities were happening there as well. Moving on, identification cards including Harvard University identification card Epstein, Florida concealed weapons permit expiring March 29th, 2010, Epstein, the Breakers identification card Epstein. So in 2005, Epstein, by the way, was given the title of visiting fellow at Harvard's Department of Psychology, which could explain why he had an ID card at that time. Now, the reporting indicates that Harvard kind of quietly stopped receiving donations from him in 2008. It really wasn't until 2019 that Harvard issued a message explaining the university's connection to Epstein and condemning him. But the New York Times reports that he still visited Harvard 40 more times after his 2008 conviction on those sex crimes in Florida, and even had his own office space until 2018. As for the concealed weapons permit, we can understand why he wouldn't want authorities to know he had the means to own and operate firearms if he was about to get raided on allegations of child assault. But for why he would want to potentially hide a Palm Beach resort ID card, you got to wonder what went on there that he'd potentially not want authorities to know. Maybe that he was a frequent member. I don't know. I'll give you one example, and this is from 2010. 5 years later, I don't know if it has any connection, but message from Barry Zelen to Jeffrey Epstein. Leaving for New York City after being in Florida for 2 weeks. Thought I might bump into you somehow. It didn't happen. It appears that you and the press are still joined at the hip for the moment. Too bad for you. The plebeians stay entertained. I will tell you this, it is an interesting scene at the Colony on Friday night at Club 10, and the Goyim in general know how to have a good time. I like to watch, so Palm Beach is fun. But give me the keys any day of the week. The crowd at the Ferrari show at the Breakers was remarkable for its international participants. The women and men were spectacular, so were the cars. That's my report. Work awaits me. Stay sane. Going back to the inventory, you have one DVD titled Seagate Kids Reunion, dated March 9th, 2005. Now, Epstein apparently grew up in Seagate, which is a private community in Coney Island, Brooklyn. So this DVD could very well be from a reunion that took place in around this time. There is an interesting email from 2009 that Epstein sent to a redacted party with the subject line, Seagate Reunion, and it reads, "The only time I can remember ever experiencing this much anticipation and curiosity about anything was when I went to the freak show in Coney Island as a teen." I don't know, maybe he's just making a point, making a joke. Freak show, anytime you mention Epstein, though, gotta call it out. All right, now I want to look at the final items on this list. 1 2005 calendar, miscellaneous greeting cards, announcements, personal letter, lab results, and last but not least, $2,256 in cash. Okay, as for the plans in this particular calendar Epstein allegedly wanted removed, you have to wonder what he had written down. But what is more interesting is the idea of Epstein wanting to hide lab results, right? Could they have been STD tests, pregnancy tests, drug tests? Because knowing the allegations against Epstein, including of secret children, there's just endless possibilities. You got one email from a later date in 2012, involves a lab test. It says, quote, make sure you take some form of antibiotic for the private region, a woman's private region, Cleocin or some such. You've had many men's private parts in just a few weeks. Then you go to this email, April 23rd, 2012. Jeffrey, I am a clean freak. I contact my doctors for every little thing. Not so many, always with the same and always with condom. We'll take a test. That's always useful. I'm a bit surprised to see these messages. Epstein responds back, I only want good for you. Now, when it comes to the exact amount of cash that Epstein allegedly wanted out of his Palm Beach mansion, I couldn't find anything in the files that points to that particular number around that time. But it is a little suspicious, and that it's only under $3,000, because that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. So where else did he have money hidden? Maybe, I don't know. Now I know that inventory list was a lot, but I got to go through some email correspondence that was found in the Epstein files that further proves, or seems to prove, these items were taken. So this was from August 2009. It was about a month after he was released from jail in Florida. And there seemed to have been a request from Epstein's accuser, Virginia Giuffre, regarding certain evidence. So this is an email that Epstein forwards to his attorney, Roy Black, and then his attorney, Martin Weinberg. The email is from William Riley with the subject, Epstein, and it reads, Bob, over the weekend I learned that plaintiff's counsel are looking to get from me the computers and paperwork I took from Jeff's house prior to the search warrant. I have them locked in storage and would like to know what to do with them. They are no longer needed in the criminal case, I assume. Is it possible to give you these items for your review and safekeeping, or give it to Darren Indyke or back to Jeff, etc.? And Indyke was Epstein's personal lawyer and co-executor of Epstein's estate at one point. I've attached my inventory and some of the photos of the items I have. Roy Black directed that the computer drives be cloned and he would have the results of that effort. The cloning was done by a forensic specialist, Dave Kleiman. Let me know ASAP, Bill Riley. So the key there, moving computers, paperwork prior to the search warrant, I mean, an argument would be that this material was moved in anticipation of the investigation, right? And by the way, I will tell you, the Telegraph also explained what former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reeder said when authorities searched Epstein's Florida property in connection with that initial Florida State investigation, those charges. Quote, the place had been cleaned up, and he added how certain computer material appeared to be gone. By the way, if you want to learn more about those communications regarding storage units or lockers, we have a whole Sidebar episode out right now. It's up on Law and Crime's YouTube page where you can check it out. But that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. We're also up on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody. More disturbing details are coming to light about accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's secret storage lockers. We've talked about this before, but now we're talking pornography, lab results, sex slave manuals, and by the way, the most chilling of all, it is reported these storage units were never searched by authorities. We may now have an idea about all this material that was stored in at least one unit, and I will tell you, it is disturbing. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So earlier this week, we covered a report by The Telegraph that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly stashed away materials in secret storage lockers in the United States, potential evidence that was reportedly never fully recovered. And we have just learned new information about what one of those storage units may have contained, and this adds just another disturbing dimension to this entire saga. And according to the outlet, this is such a big part, it appears the FBI may have never searched them. So as we talk about, should there be further investigations? Is there evidence against anybody else? Just something to think about, right? Now, according to DOJ documents and reporting from the New York Post, Epstein had paid private investigators to remove items from his Palm Beach, Florida property, including
All right, racist.
Redirect land claims and sovereignty away from the actual indigenous population, which is Black Americans.
I keep seeing this man seeking division for likes and follows, clearly pushing supremacy propaganda. So I had to say something. We see through your bullshit, and we see that you are trying to cause division among us all.
So let me get this straight. Now I'm the divisive one? Are we seriously going to just pretend like you people haven't been extremely anti-Black? It is you who has consistently made derogatory comments and spewed one-sided hatred. And I know that you're accustomed to lying and gaslighting as a trigger response. So I wanted to show you proof just how racist and divisive your comments are. You're all so disrespectful, it's insane. No one sits around and discusses Native Americans with such superiority and racism like you all discuss Black Americans. You're literally throwing the first punches and then expecting hugs in return. We can all see this. So please stop antagonizing someone and then pretending like you're offended when they defend themselves. I'm a part of that defense. You don't want me to discuss these matters? Well then, stop giving me disrespect to respond to. I will never stop speaking for what's right, especially when I have to sit and watch you disrespect my husband and his stolen ethnicity.
Now that we've gotten that first order of business out of the way, allow me to reintroduce my name is Beezus. I'm the content writer and Aboriginal American who makes up the other 50% of what we call, however, comma. You all have been wrong and assumptive about him the entire time. And that's the point. Making you all face the reality of your biases. You can't even focus on the well-sourced and well-thought-out material because you're so focused on him and his identity. When this entire time, there have been two of us. We curate this content together as a team, and I'm very proud of the work that we do. So instead of wasting your time attacking us and being emotional, you could have done just what we have done, and that's provide your actual indigenous genealogy. You should be able to show your ancestors with pride. I don't know why that's a problem. Focusing on your ancestry gives you a moment to be proud of the world that they left for you and being proud of the people that came before you. You also should be able to prove who came from what indigenous territory and how you're related to them. And although we've done this before, I've produced receipts and shown actually where my ancestors came from and what indigenous territories they're actually from. So to call our ancestry a lie is actually you exhibiting supremacy. You feel you're the only people that can possibly be from this land simply because someone told you so. When the whole time, melanated people are from every land. They are the aboriginals of every land on the planet. And stating these facts in no way, shape, or form is divisive. It's just what it is. Facts. So stop asking for something you're not prepared to give, which is unity. Especially when you're accusing us of erasure, which should be impossible unless your origins are built on a lie. Either way, we have proof. And it's clear that that scares you. And either way, that's not our problem.
Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
All right, racist.
Redirect land claims and sovereignty away from the actual indigenous population, which is Black Americans.
I keep seeing this man seeking division for likes and follows, clearly pushing supremacy propaganda, so I had to say something. We see through your bullshit, and we see that you are trying to cause division among us all.
So let me get this straight. Now I'm the divisive one? Are we seriously going to just pretend like you people haven't been extremely anti-black? It is you who has consistently made derogatory comments and spewed one-sided hatred. And I know that you're accustomed to lying and gaslighting as a trigger response. So I wanted to show you proof just how racist and divisive your comments are. You're all so disrespectful, it's insane. No one sits around and discusses Native Americans with such superior...
Can we save ourselves as a country? I started discussing that question in the previous video, and I want to follow up on that because I didn't cover everything I wanted to.
I got a receipt. All right, folks, look, this whole Jeffrey Epstein email story surrounding Donald Trump just got even worse for Donald. If you can even believe it, it was already bad. It's gotten even worse. There were around 20,000 Epstein emails released yesterday, and since there were so many, only a few got some real media attention. But now, some emails that kind of flew under the radar are coming to the surface, and they are really damning for Donald Trump, completely exposing his lies surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. So look, I'm going to show you these emails, and I'm also going to show you some resurfaced footage of Jeffrey Epstein talking about Donald Trump in a deposition that has gone viral since the release of this story, and more. But before I do any of that, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. Let me just say, folks, I currently have the flu. I have a really bad fever right now, so if I cough in the video or there's cuts so I can drink some water, I apologize for that, but I'm not doing too good. But this story is too important to not inform people. We can't let Donald Trump get away with any of this. So let's dive in here. I want to start with this NBC News article talking about the big moments in the emails, which of course I think everybody has to know about. Let's start with this one. Epstein disputes Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago account. Remember, Donald Trump said that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. Epstein is saying in these emails, where he really doesn't have any reason to lie, saying that's completely false. Quote, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever, Epstein wrote. Quote, and this is the big one, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. This is Epstein saying that Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing. In another email that was sent to Wolf, Epstein said a woman whose name was redacted worked at Mar-a-Lago. Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. The testimony of the houseman, John Elassie, confirmed it. He never got a massage. In an email sent to Maxwell in 2011, Epstein said Trump spent hours with someone the committee says was a victim. I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. I've been thinking about that, Maxwell replied. Here's another one. Epstein criticizes Trump's dirty business practices. Epstein repeatedly ripped Trump's business practices in the emails and called him dirty. After attorney and former Obama White House counsel Kathy Rumler sent Epstein a link to a New York Times op-ed that referenced former Trump fixer Michael Cohen, Epstein responded, you see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, NY biz people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. He has no memory when he buys the house, he wrote in 2019. His biz model is putting his name on a real estate development and gets a fee for using his name. The hotel biz is just that. Here's another one. Epstein says Trump blames others for bad results. He said that he's worse in real life and up close. Epstein references Trump and prison. Mark Epstein, the brother of Jeffrey, said, what's your boy Donald up to now? Epstein responded, he's with Bannon now, apparently a reference to Steve Bannon, which of course it is. Mark Epstein suggested his brother ask if Russian President Vladimir Putin had compromising pictures of Trump. Quote, you and your boy Donnie could do a remake of the movie Get Hard, where Kevin Hart in the movie is preparing Will Ferrell for prison. And Epstein responded by saying, Donnie T. Epstein also denied that Bill Clinton ever went to the island, and more. There are some pretty significant moments, but those are the big ones. But now, let's get into some of the new emails and the resurfaced footage that really put all of this into context. Let's start here, where Jeffrey
Shut up, MAGA. This is your problem. This your leader. This your president. This your king. Don't try to distance yourself now.
Epstein was asked under oath if he had ever hung out with underage girls with Donald Trump. And just take a look at his response, because truly it is so damning.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Wow. That's this was in 2010, a deposition that Epstein was sitting for in one of the many legal cases against him. And when you're asked, have you ever hung out with underage girls with the, then a private citizen, of course, Donald Trump, but who is now president of the United States, is crazy. I mean, that is insane that this is the current state of American politics. I also came across this article from 2021 that hasn't gotten enough attention, which is, it's about Steve Bannon, his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, and of course, Steve Bannon's involvement in Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. And the headline says, Steve Bannon was reportedly very worried that Jeffrey Epstein would reveal damning things about Trump during his first presidential run. And here's the story behind this. Michael Wolff, this is coming from Michael Wolff as well. Trump wasn't the only one worried about Epstein's potentially loose lips. Wolff claims Steve Bannon, in one of his books that was published a while ago, then the former president's chief of staff, repeatedly called up Epstein. Wolff even personally witnessed one of the calls that took place shortly before Epstein's arrest during a press visit. And here's the quote. It is damning. Quote from Steve Bannon. "You were the only person I was afraid of during the campaign." And then Epstein responded, "As well, you should have been." So based on everything, even just the emails we've gone over so far, we're about to get into more. Just based on all this stuff, it seems like it's kind of like an open secret in the Republican Party that Donald Trump was much closer with Epstein than previously known. Kind of seems like they all know this, and they all know that perhaps Donald Trump has done something wrong in connection with Epstein, and they've just tried to keep it on the down low and pretend it doesn't exist, but it very much does exist. Now, I do want to go over the main emails that we saw today. Of course, it's this one. I want you to realize the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. He spent hours at my house. Here's this one. Trump said he asked me to resign. We've seen some of these already. Of course, he knew about the girls, which is an insane quote. And then, of course, Michael Wolff talking to Jeffrey Epstein about how he could get back at Donald Trump. A little bit of blackmail in this email, which is being referenced. But here's
bunch of rich punks.
There's more that just haven't gotten the attention it deserves. Here's an email chain with someone named Faith Cates. She said on November 23rd, 2017 at 8 in the morning, "Hope today is fun for you." Epstein said, Epstein said, "Hope today is fun for you." She said, "Fun, when are you back in New York City?" He said, "All next week." She said, "Okay, Dylan will want to see you. I always want to see you. Where are you having Thanksgiving?" Epstein said, "Eva. That means Glenn. Check out his red hair. Berry colors for holiday," Epstein said. I don't know what they're talking about here, but here's the important part. He's such a snooze. Who else is down there? And Epstein said in 2017, David Fizzle, Hansen, and Trump. So this implies that Donald Trump had Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017, which is damning because Donald Trump's entire claim is that he cut Epstein off in the early 2000s. And now emails from Epstein himself is saying he spent Thanksgiving with Donald Trump in 2017. And it gets worse. Epstein also, in another email in 2017 with Larry Summers, who of course has close connections to Donald Trump, Epstein said, "I've met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous." Here's another one. In 2016, after Donald Trump won the election in November, on November 13th, Jeffrey Epstein was asked by Linda Stone, "Are you still in Paris?" And Epstein responded by saying, "Trump Tower." Again, 2016. So Trump's claim of their relationship ending in the early 2000s is completely debunked by Epstein's own words in these emails. And again, I think it's important to point out that Epstein has no reason to lie in these emails. It's not like he's doing this to protect himself in a criminal case. It's not like he's doing this to help Donald Trump politically. These are private emails that Epstein was never expecting to get out, and yet he's incriminating Donald Trump here. Here's another one. On September 20th, 2017, Epstein wrote, "I'm certain you understand. I'm sure you'll have a great new year. No need to respond." This anonymous person said, "Only for you, Trump is on the phone today. It is possible any minute that all parties will be on one table in New York, including my dear old man, to put an end to this," which I'm not sure what they're trying to put an end to. "The book worked," said Epstein. This anonymous person said, "Thanks, Jeff, I'm praying." And then Epstein said, "Only you, please," which again, I have no idea. We don't know the full context behind this stuff, obviously, but the story doesn't end there in conjunction with what's come out in the past 24 hours. We also learned that, of course, with Adelita Grijalva, Representative Adelita Grijalva getting sworn in, Donald Trump, she was the 218th signature on the discharge petition. Donald Trump was calling up Republicans who also signed on, demanding that they take their name off of the list. Donald Trump personally called Lauren Boebert, MAGA representative, on the phone and asked that she do it, and she said no. So clearly there is a pressure campaign from the Attorney General, from members of the DOJ, from Donald Trump himself, to get Republicans to cover up the story even more. And then this is how the day ended yesterday, with Donald Trump in the Oval Office signing the government shutdown bill. He was asked questions about Epstein, and this is how he responded.
Mr. President, can you respond to these Epstein emails that were released today?
Well done, Mr. President. Great job.
Yep, look at that.
Mr. President,
I mean, just absolutely disgusting. So we get all these Epstein emails where Epstein is saying that Donald Trump knew about the girls, and when he's asked about it, he doesn't respond to these journalists, and then all these Republicans start shaking his hand, saying, "Good job, Donnie," when we have just learned so much about how Donald Trump enabled Epstein's behavior. And the only response he issued was calling it another hoax. The Epstein hoax. He continues to claim it's a hoax when, in reality, all these victims have come out talking about Epstein. Victims have come out talking about Trump. And he continues to pretend it's a fake story. It's so insane. But anyway, despite me having the flu, I just wanted to talk to you guys about this story because I didn't get a chance to cover it yesterday. I was so sick. But regardless of all that, I'm glad I got to talk to you folks a little bit about it. We'll see how many videos I can get out, but I might just prioritize my rest from now.
Andrea Lee Sampson, mid-30s female and former assistant attorney in Anoka County, Minnesota. She's accused of helping run a sex trafficking operation in Hennepin County, Minnesota. According to court documents, she was part of a trafficking organization that would recruit women and post them online in advertisements for commercial sex. Sampson is accused of building and maintaining the shell corporations to hide the profits from this operation. This is precisely why we need a nonprofit like Caddis, Citizens Against Trafficking in the United States, because our giant trafficking problem in the United States runs deep, runs high, and runs far. But together we can stop this through awareness and supporting survivors. We sell clothes with cats on them and give all of our profits to survivors of human trafficking. Now, also per the complaint, 2 of Sampson's properties were used as the sites where the transactions occurred and the pictures were taken. There are also reports of a man showing up with a gun to keep the victims in line when management was displeased. As of Friday, August 14th, Sampson is being held at the Hennepin County Jail and is no longer employed by Anoka County. Rightfully so, in our opinion. Support our nonprofit at caddisapparel.com and share if you care, because we need your help. Andrea Lee Sampson, mid-30s female and former assistant attorney in Anoka.
Here's a list of Christian nationalist pastors, preachers, and religious leaders who quoted God, used Bible verses to gain power, and then fell hard. Jerry Falwell ran Liberty University, used students like props, sex scandal, financial abuse, resigned. Ted Haggard preached morality, got caught with meth and a male escort, resigned. Ravi Zacharias was a global apologist. Multiple women came forward after his death. Sexual coercion, rape, abuse. Robert Morris, a Texas megachurch pastor. The church covered up his sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl for decades. Mark Driscoll preached hypermasculinity, fired for spiritual abuse and bullying. Jim Baker, televangelist, fraud and conspiracy, arrested. Bill Gothard, the father of purity culture, accused of sexual harassment by dozens of women, ousted. Carl Lentz, celebrity pastor, fired for an affair and toxic leadership. Tony Alamo ran a cult-like ministry, convicted of transporting minors for sex, 175 years in prison. Stacey Lee Austin, Chick-fil-A manager, groomed and assaulted a 15-year-old girl, arrested. And that's just the ones in church. Now, here are the ones at your local state houses. Larry Householder, former Ohio Speaker, Bible in one hand, $60 million bribery ring in the other, 20 years in prison. Ralph Shorty, Oklahoma Senator and youth pastor, convicted for child sex trafficking, 15 years. Josh Duggar, purity culture icon and Family Research Council lobbyist, child porn conviction, 12 and a half years. Mark
MAGA, what's going on, MAGA?
Himsel, Kansas State Representative, assaulted a student mid-Bible rant, arrested, lost his seat. Rick Renzi, Arizona Congressman, quoted scripture, convicted of extortion and bribery. Roy Moore, Ten Commandments judge, accused of sexual misconduct with teens, lost U.S. Senate race. Matt Shea, Washington lawmaker, wrote a Christian war manifesto linked to domestic terrorism, expelled from GOP caucus. Ralph Drollinger led Bible studies for lawmakers, pushed anti-LGBTQ+, anti-Catholic, and sexist teaching, lost key partnerships after public backlash. Notice the pattern. There's a man, usually white, usually powerful, who wraps himself in faith, quotes scripture, preaches morality, then uses that position to take.
Y'all gonna call her racist too?
Because power like his doesn't ask, it expects silence. Sometimes that power takes money. Sometimes it takes a voice. Sometimes it takes a child. This isn't random. It's not new. It's a playbook, and it works because we're taught to trust appearances over patterns. So if you've ever had a gut feeling about a church, a pastor, a politician, or a family values program, don't ignore it. Ask yourself who benefits, who's protected, who's sacrificed, because this goes back decades, and it is by design. If you're tired of pretending this is about God, say it. If you're ready to name it, share it. And if you've lived through it, know this: you are not alone and you are not crazy. Google it. I keep receipts. Here's a list of Christian nationalist pastors, preachers, and religious leaders who quoted God, used Bible verses to gain power, and then fell hard. Jerry Falwell ran Liberty University, used students like props, sex scandal, financial abuse, resigned. Ted Haggard preached morality, got caught with meth and a male escort, resigned. Ravi Zacharias was a global apologist. Multiple women came forward after his death. Sexual coercion, rape, abuse. Robert Morris, a Texas megachurch pastor. The church covered up his sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl for decades. Mark Driscoll preached hypermasculinity.
Sam Racing, what up? Shout out to you.
For spiritual abuse and bullying. Jim Baker, televangelist, fraud and conspiracy, arrested. Bill Gothard, the father of purity culture, accused of sexual harassment by dozens of women, ousted. Carl Lentz, celebrity pastor, fired for an affair and toxic leadership. Tony Alamo ran a cult-like ministry, convicted of transporting minors for sex, 175 years in prison. Stacey Lee Austin, Chick-fil-A manager, groomed and assaulted a 15-year-old girl, arrested. And that's just the ones in church. Now, here are the ones at your local state houses. Larry Householder, former Ohio Speaker, Bible in one hand, $60 million bribery ring in the other, 20 years in prison. Ralph Shorty, Oklahoma Senator and youth pastor,
Anoka County,
20 years in prison.
Hey, MAGA, all y'all can say is, Democrats, but the Democrats. Shut up.
Prison. Ralph Shorty, Oklahoma Senator and youth pastor, convicted for child sex trafficking, 15 years. Josh Duggar, purity culture icon and Family Research Council lobbyist, child porn conviction, 12 and a half years. Mark Samsel, Kansas State Representative, assaulted a
I just want to know what you looking at kitty corn that's getting you aroused. Something else ain't working upstairs in your fucking head. Or you really just a man who can't get down with a real thick, fine woman?
Mid-Bible rant, arrested, lost his seat. Rick Renzi, Arizona Congressman, quoted scripture, convicted of extortion and bribery. Roy Moore, Ten Commandments judge, accused of sexual misconduct with teens, lost U.S. Senate race. Matt Shea, Washington lawmaker, wrote a Christian war manifesto linked to domestic terrorism, expelled from GOP caucus. Ralph Drollinger led Bible studies for lawmakers, pushed anti-LGBTQ+, anti-Catholic, and sexist teaching, lost key partnerships after public backlash. Notice the pattern. There's a man, usually white, usually powerful, who wraps himself in faith, quotes scripture, preaches morality, then uses that position to take, because power like his doesn't ask, it expects silence. Sometimes that power takes money. Sometimes it takes a voice. Sometimes it takes a child. This isn't random. It's not new. It's a playbook, and it works because we're taught to trust appearances over patterns. So if you've ever had a gut feeling,
Yeah, you call Ossoff a gutter snipe, and you get all angry, and you're never like that with Trump. You're like a little puppy. Why don't you deal with
Hey, Ronald, that shit don't work, bruh.
exactly what you're talking about with
This isn't a
Ossoff? I don't care if you have 50.
It sound like Democrats, but it look like motherfucking Republicans.
Why don't you deal?
Fuck what you talking about. We can talk what it sounds like, but we know what it is. We just didn't show you. You want me to show you who it is?
Today's episode of The Usual Suspects, a Border Patrol agent out of Arizona was caught raping a 16-year-old little girl, and he'd been raping
Now shut the fuck up.
her since December. And it turns out it wasn't even the first time that he'd been caught having inappropriate conversations with teenagers. Just gonna throw this out there. Nobody should be able to keep their job after they've been fucking kids. But I guess that's how it works at U.S. Border Patrol and ICE. Actually, I knew that's how it works. Ask all those little girls at the Dilley facility who are pregnant. Today's episode of The Usual Suspects, a Border Patrol agent out of Arizona was caught
You still talking that shit?
raping a 16-year-old little girl, and he'd been raping her since December. And it turns out it wasn't even the first
WT over 2, what it do, man?
time that he'd been caught having inappropriate conversations with teenagers. Just gonna throw this out there. Nobody should be able to keep their job after they've been
Smash that like button, y'all.
they've been fucking kids. But I guess that's how it works at U.S. Border Patrol and ICE. Actually, I knew that's how it works. Ask all those little girls at the Dilley facility who are pregnant. Today's episode.
Hey guys, I'm reading the Epstein files out loud until every last one is tossed feet first into a wood chipper. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to a man whose name I cannot pronounce, but I will put a picture of it here. On July 24th, 2015. Epstein writes, "How are you? I need a favor. There is a Russian girl from Moscow, redacted. She is attempting to blackmail a group of powerful businessmen in New York. It is bad for business for everyone involved. She arrived in New York Saturday of last week, staying at the Four Seasons on 57th Street. Suggestions?" The man responds and says, "I'm fine. Give me a few days to get information about her." That's cool. Hey guys, I'm reading the Epstein files out loud until every last one is tossed feet first into a wood chipper. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm Vic Myers. Welcome to the Resistance. S.V. Smith sent me an email and asked for my thoughts on Christian nationalism, how voters can elect people who will reject and reverse the results of Project 2025. I reckon the best place to start here is make sure that we all have a common understanding of what Christian nationalism actually is.
A bunch of fake-ass racists who trying to stand on some shit dealing with God. That's the fucking most laughable shit we could ever hear. And I love it. I love it. I love to expose it. And I'm here to do the fucking job of giving the medicine.
So Donald Trump has a long history of failing Christianity in its core principles. Things like feeding the hungry, welcoming thy neighbor, and the value Jesus lays out in Matthew 18:6, where he makes clear that harming children ranks among the gravest moral violations imaginable. This last one is completely incompatible with ICE raids, cutting SNAP, and protecting those named in the Epstein files. And yet Christian nationalists see Trump as their champion. How do we square that circle? It's actually not that hard. Because Christian nationalism doesn't center itself on Christian belief. Christian nationalism is about using Christ as a tool to gain power over others. They invoke God, but they don't obey God. They cite Scripture, but they don't live Scripture. They claim to be faithful, but their faith does not constrain their behavior. Now, I'm not simply stating an opinion here. I'm describing what we can all observe every day. From MAGA voters posting social media rants against immigrants and school lunches for the poor, to the highest levels of the Trump administration, where whenever Christian values conflict with the goals of Project 2025, they choose Project 2025. These people are functional atheists, not because they deny God, but because nothing about their behavior is constrained by belief. They want to post the 10 Commandments in classrooms, not to inspire enlightenment, but to enforce conformity. They want to impose Christianity so that they can control all of the rule books. And ironically, true Christianity was never imposed by Christ. It was chosen. Jesus invited people into his flock, and those who accepted the invitation were welcomed. Those who rejected him were not chased down or forced into compliance. When he sent out his disciples, he explicitly told them, if a place does not welcome you, leave. Now compare that to Christian nationalism and Project 2025. Project 2025 is not an invitation. It's a plan to use the power of the federal government to impose a specific moral and religious framework on all of us, whether we consent or not. Now, I suppose your grassroots Christian nationalists may sincerely believe that this is about making America a land of and for Christians. But the people at the top of the Christian nationalist food chain don't care about Christianity at all. They care about controlling institutions, the courts, the civil service, public education, and the machinery of the executive branch. Once those institutions are under their control, the rich and powerful become richer and more powerful, while the rest of us, Christian and non-Christian alike, become poorer and less powerful.
Okay.
Now that we understand what Christian nationalism is and how it connects to Project 2025, let's finish answering S.V. Smith's question. How do we elect people who will and believe that it should work for all of us? If a candidate refers to the Department of War instead of the Department of Defense, they're already obeying in advance and they're not going to be any good to us. And if a candidate has spent decades inside the political establishment while these institutions were hollowed out, history tells us that they're unlikely to be the ones who will reverse that damage. Vote out the incumbents. When you find candidates who are willing to defend democratic institutions instead of exploiting them, support them actively and visibly in every way that you can.
Go ahead. I'll play
SV, let me know if this answered your question. Thanks for listening. Good day. I'm Vic Meyer.
Every big opportunity that I've had came from one place. A link.
All right, folks, we just got some truly crazy new information from the Epstein files that completely contradicts what Donald Trump and the people around him have been saying, and it's surrounding Epstein's death. Of course, the official declaration of his death was that he took his own life, but new documents and new information that has come out has really thrown that up in the air, such as the story we're about to talk about. This is from CBS News, a new investigation. Who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death?
When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is detected on the stairs again. By 8:24, all of the inmates appear to have been taken to their cells. Noelle told the Inspector General she visited Epstein's cell at about 10 p.m. You can see her head in that direction here, albeit closer to 10:30, but not climb the stairs. The rules require rounds to be made every 30 minutes, but according to the report, this was the only time anyone checked on the inmates that night. There was even a sign printed on orange paper posted on the guard station saying mandatory rounds must be conducted every 30 minutes on Epstein, as per God. This was because of concerns about his risk for suicide. At 10:38 p.m., the report says someone, probably Noelle, carries a bundle of bedding or clothing up the stairs. It's a rare instance the video does catch movement on the stairs, but barely. Let's see that zoomed in and in slow motion again. Several of the video forensic experts we spoke with were skeptical about the report's conclusion and thought that the video could be showing an inmate walking up the stairs. Authorities say this was the time anyone approached his cell block until his body was discovered the next morning.
That's a pretty crazy fact that this is, from this camera angle, the last time anybody approached Epstein's before he was found dead. And this is the orange blob, the orange figure who has never been identified, by the way. We still don't know officially who this was that went up to Epstein's cell the night that he died. And now we have more information on that clip and the situation surrounding his death. So, who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death? Newly released Department of Justice documents show that investigators reviewing surveillance footage from the night of Epstein's death observed that orange-colored shape moving up a staircase toward the isolated locked tier where his cell was at approximately 10:39. The entry in an observation log of the video from the Metropolitan Correctional Center appears to suggest something previously unreported by authorities. Quote, "A flash of orange looks to be going up the L tier stairs. Could possibly be an inmate escorted up to that tier." It also appears, according to an FBI memorandum, that reviews by investigators led to disparate conclusions by the FBI and those examining the same video from the Department of Justice's Office of Inspector General. The FBI log describes the fuzzy image as possibly an inmate. And this is a document directly from the Epstein files. And then right there in this document, their review says a flash or orange looks to be going up the L tier stairs, could possibly be an inmate escorted up to that tier. The Inspector General logs it as an officer carrying orange linen or bedding, noting in their final report as an unidentified corrections officer. Unidentified. We've still never found out who that individual was. The final report by the Inspector General stated at approximately 10:39 p.m., an unidentified correctional officer appeared to walk up the stairs. Official reports state that Epstein died by suicide sometime before 6:30 a.m. when his body was discovered by a corrections officer delivering his breakfast. However, no official time of death was ever determined, and it actually gets worse. So inside the SHU that night, thousands of pages released last week as part of the Epstein files, totaling more than 3 million documents, provide additional details about the hours between the evening of August 9th, when Epstein was last seen alive on camera, and the following morning when his body was discovered. Records and interviews describes a largely quiet night inside the SHU where Epstein was being held. Several inmates told investigators they were using drugs inside of their cells. Among those interviewed were the two correction officers assigned to the unit that night, Tova Noel and Bahom, a materials handler who has not previously been publicly identified. Documents show Bahom was interviewed twice in September 2019 in sessions conducted in lieu of a grand jury subpoena. According to Noel's account, Bahom had been working multiple consecutive shifts and slept while on duty for a period between approximately 10 p.m. and midnight. So we've kind of heard a lot of this, that some of the officers fell asleep, but it gets worse. Investigators also questioned Noel about an unexplained change in the recorded number of inmates in the SHU, which appeared to drop from 73 to 72, sometime between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., which, by the way, fits very nicely into that period where this unidentified orange blob was seen walking up the stairs in that prison. This was captured around 10:38, 10:39 on the camera, and during that time, the inmates went from 73 to 72. And there's no explanation for that. It's just crazy. Neither officer was specifically asked about the orange-colored figure noted in the video observation log.
You'd think that'd be an important question to ask. Bahom told investigators he did not remember the period between 10 p.m. and midnight and said he had no recollection of anybody walking up the stairs toward Epstein's tier at around 10:30 p.m. He added that a jail employee entering a tier alone would have violated that policy. So they say they have no recollection of anybody going up the stairs, and if they did, they were violating policy. I'm telling you, it gets fishier by the day. You know, it really, really does. Really, I try to stay away from conspiracy theories. I hate conspiracy theories. Bothers the crap out of me. But when you have, you know, information like this and you're looking at the totality of what we're talking about, it's very weird. A separate internal presentation included in the document release described a corrections officer believed by investigators to be Noel carrying linen or inmate clothing up to the tier. But Noel says that it wasn't them. And the 2023 Inspector General report did not identify Noel as the figure seen in the footage. She said in her interview, I never gave out linen ever because that's done on the shift prior. So it was not her. The Inspector General did not think it was them. Bahom ended his shift at midnight and was replaced by another corrections officer named Michael Thomas, who would discover Epstein's body. Thomas and Noel failed to complete inmate counts at 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., as well as mandatory 30-minute wellness checks of Epstein. Thomas and Noel were later charged with falsifying records, certifying the inmate counts had been completed. They were later dropped in exchange for testimony. Thomas told investigators he discovered Epstein in his cell shortly after 6:30 a.m. on August 10th, and that he ripped Epstein down from the hanging position. Investigators asked what happened to the noose. They said, I don't recall taking the noose off. I really don't. I don't recall taking the thing off from around his neck. That feels like something you might remember, right? I mean, this is obviously a very traumatic event. I mean, for any human to see another human in that state, regardless of what the circumstances are, that's probably a pretty traumatic thing. You'd imagine like taking the noose off, right? Unless, I don't know, kind of, unless they just like blacked out. They just like, you know, don't remember any of it. Maybe, I don't know, but weird. Noel, who remained standing at the cell entrance, told investigators she saw Thomas lower Epstein to the floor, but did not see a noose around his neck. So he was hanging, but there was no noose. And on that topic, it gets worse. The noose Epstein allegedly used has never been definitively identified. So they actually don't know what Epstein used to take his own life. According to the Inspector General's report, a noose collected at the scene was later determined not to be the one that was used in Epstein's death. What? Thomas also described Epstein as shirtless when he found him. Evidence records indicate a shirt believed to have been cut from Epstein's body was later returned from the hospital in a bag of personal belongings. So he was shirtless, but there was also a shirt cut from his body? It's all very strange. The new documents also show that the New York City's Office of the Chief Medical Examiner reviewed the jail surveillance footage 6 days after Epstein's death as part of its investigation and concluded the video was too blurry to identify any individuals. Hours later, the office publicly ruled Epstein's death a suicide. The medical examiner did not provide an estimate of how long Epstein might have been dead before his body was discovered. Dr. Michael Baden, a forensic pathologist retained by Epstein's brother, previously told CBS News that Epstein had likely been dead for several hours before he was found, but because the body had been moved, determining the time of death was impossible. Bahom declined to comment when contacted by CBS News. Their attorney said Ms. Noel will not be making any statements or attempts to clarify any aspect of this situation. Isn't this all very strange? It's just very strange. We have this photo of this blob going up the stairs. We have the people who are on the scene. First of all, we also have these documents from official investigators saying that, yes, an orange blob did go up the stairs. And then we have the people on the scene saying, yeah, I don't remember there being a noose. He was shirtless, but there was a shirt included in personal belongings bag. This person went up the steps who has never been identified before. Nobody has been identified. They said it was Noel. Noel said it wasn't them. They never give out linen. I don't know. I just knew I had to bring this story to you because it's so weird. But look, I will leave the video there. You can let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to subscribe down below. Drop a like on the video. If you are on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to rate the show 5 stars, follow along, and let me know what you think over there as well. I'm very tired right now. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk soon. All right, folks, we just got some truly crazy new information from the Epstein files that completely contradicts what Donald Trump and the people around him have been saying, and it's surrounding Epstein's death. Of course, the official declaration of his death was that he took his own life, but new documents and new information that has come out has really thrown that up in the air, such as the story we're about to talk about. This is from CBS News, a new investigation. Who entered Epstein's jail tier the night of his death? Newly released video logs appear to contradict official accounts, and we've gotten more information on what happened that night and the morning when his body was discovered, and it really messes with your head. I mean, it just completely contradicts so much of what has been said by Donald Trump and his team. And so we're going to get into the story. We'll talk about it a little bit and all the new information we just got about it. Before I do any of that, please make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about the story. If you're on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to rate the show 5 stars and follow along. Once again, I'm not in my usual setup. As you can see, I'm on the road. I'm debating MAGA. You will see more of that soon on the show. I'm confident that you're going to enjoy it. But I want to start here before we get into the article, which is actually a CBS analysis of video footage from the night that Epstein died inside the prison. Now, as you'll remember, a bunch of the cameras were, conveniently turned off. They conveniently didn't film crucial parts of the prison. This one did, and I want CBS to break this down very quickly so you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here. Have a watch.
Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block. Remember what Dan Bongino said.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Let's zoom in and play that again in slow motion. Here's the sliver of stairs. Epstein is here with his escort, and they walk off screen. When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is detected on the stairs again. By 8:24, all of the inmates appear to have been taken to their cells.
Let me give you a Let me give you a psychology term that explains 2026. It's called DARVO. And after this video, you'll spot it mid-sentence. Step 1. Deny. When state violence, corruption, or abuse gets exposed, the response is instant. That's it. Happen. Out of context. Fake footage. January 6th got reframed as a...
I'm back, y'all. I'm back.
Happen. Out of context. Fake footage. January 6th got reframed as a tour. Civilians losing their lives became unverified. Reality gets put on trial. Step 2. Attack. Not the facts, the person pointing at them. Journalists become enemies. Protesters become terrorists. Whistleblowers get charged while the people they exposed get promotions. The message is simple. Noticing is the crime. Then comes the favorite part. Reverse victim and offender. The most powerful people in the room suddenly claim they're under siege. Federal agencies say they're being persecuted. Politicians with megaphones say they're being silenced. And when anyone resists, it's framed as violence, even if the resistance is just existing. You see it with immigration raids. You see it with campus protests. You see it when police escalation gets questioned and the response is, look how hard this is for us. The bigger the power, the louder the victim cosplay. And here's why DARVO works so well. It doesn't just flip the story. It exhausts everyone else. People stop arguing facts and start wondering if they're crazy. Confusion replaces outrage. Silence starts looking like peace. So if everything feels upside down, it's not because you're confused. You're just watching a strategy. Let me give
Okay, how long do you think?
I've been wondering for years how the MAGA cult can argue against facts, logic, and science the way they do. So I decided to do some research on the methods the Trump cult uses to argue against facts, logic, and science. Once you understand Congress, your MAGA friend responds and says you hate America and want to see it destroyed. You never said that, but now you're defending your patriotism instead of talking about the war. Your original point is completely forgotten, and then they are nodding
Lord Narku, eat a dick in your echo chamber.
like they won the conversation. They argue against something you never said. This is called the straw man fallacy. They take your actual argument, replace it with something dumber and scarier, and argue against that fake version instead. In 1960, psychologist Peter Wason at the University College London found that the brain does not look for truth. It looks for the fastest way to protect what it already believes. So their brain is not asking if you are right. Their brain is asking how to make you look wrong. You're questioning the Iran war? You're siding with the enemy. Bring up Trump's criminal conviction? You have TDS. Ask about deportations to foreign prisons? And they'll claim you want open borders. They never argued with what anyone actually says. They just try to make sure that your argument never gets heard. 2.
Boom. They ain't got shit to say. They just making sure that with the shit you spitting don't never get heard.
Aboutism. You bring up Trump firing his attorney general. They say, what about Hillary's emails? You mentioned the Iran
I swear, verbatim.
war started without Congress. They say, what about Biden? They never answer a single question because they know they can't answer it. This is called whataboutism. We are all very familiar with this one. Instead of responding to your point, they drag a completely different issue into the conversation to make
Smash that like button, y'all. Double tap that screen. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and definitely make sure you hit a like so we can get this traffic up a little bit more. Let's go.
forget what you were talking about. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman at Princeton University found that the brain can only track a limited number of ideas at the same time. The moment someone introduces a second problem, your brain splits its attention. Now if you add a third and a fourth problem, your brain can't keep up and loses the original thread. They use whataboutism to exploit the brain's weakness on purpose. They do this because they saw other people do it, and it worked. It's not like they have some grand plan or anything. Every time they say what about, they're not making a point. They're running away from yours. Whataboutism is not a defense. It's a weak person's confession that they have no argument. 3. Ad hominem attack. You say Trump is breaking the law. They say you have Trump derangement syndrome and you hate America. Trump is still breaking the law, but now the conversation is about whether you are
What up?
question whether you are even worth listening to before they engage with what you said. When they cannot argue facts, they come after you instead. And the moment you start defending yourself, the argument is over and they win. 4. The slippery slope fallacy. You say the government should not be able to deport American citizens without due process. They say you want to let criminals pour into the country. You said nothing about criminals. But now everyone is arguing about something you never brought up.
Who's over there?
This is called the slippery slope fallacy. They take one reasonable idea.
I'm telling you, he did. I was right here.
Lead to the most extreme outcome imaginable. No evidence, no
You're
logical
right there.
steps.
You're right there.
They're just creating fear. Psychologist Paul Ekman at the University of California, San Francisco, found that fear overrides rational thinking faster than any other emotion. Once your brain perceives a threat, it stops evaluating evidence and starts looking for an exit. The slippery slope is designed to trigger the fear
Yeah. Y'all want everything to be AI. You wish this shit was AI.
response before your brain can ask whether the threat is even real. Scare people enough and they stop thinking. And people who stop thinking are easy to control. Just ask Fox News and Newsmax. 5. The burden of proof flip. Charlie Kirk built his entire career on this trick. He would show up to college campuses, make wild claims with no evidence, and demand that students disprove him on the spot. When students couldn't disprove him, Kirk declared victory and forced the student to give up the mic. He called it owning the libs. It was not a real debate. It was an ambush on unprepared kids. This is called the burden of proof flip. The person making the claim is always responsible for proving the claim, but Kirk and every conservative like him make wild claims with no evidence and then demand that you disprove those claims. Crazy, right? And here's why you can never win.
You show them a court ruling, they claim the judge is corrupt. You show them a study, the science is corrupt. You show them a news report, the outlet is fake news. Every piece of evidence you bring
Don't do
just gets
that. Don't
added
put your
to the
feet on the door if you don't
conspiracy.
have to.
There's no evidence they will accept because
Good.
accepting evidence was never part of the deal. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman found that once someone believes something, their brain treats every piece of supporting evidence as proof, and every piece of contradicting evidence as part of the cover
Yeah, that's some real MAGA shit right there. Real MAGA shit.
or conspiracy. Kirk was never really debating anyone. He was running a scam. In a real debate, the person making the claim has to prove their claim to be true. Kirk never proved anything. He just demanded you disprove him and called it a win when you couldn't. That is not a debate. That is a weak scam and only worked on kids who are under 20 years old. Most of these people have no idea what they're actually saying. They saw it on TikTok or they heard it on Fox News. They repeated it to you and called it an argument. They're not actually trying to win a debate. They're trying to feel superior to someone they are secretly intimidated by. That is all owning the libs ever was. Deeply insecure people using borrowed tricks to feel powerful for 5 minutes. Now that you know these tricks, you'll never have to fall for them again. They're what weak people use to try and trick smart people into arguing. When you're not smart enough to win a real argument, you kinda have to trick people. I've been wondering for years how the MAGA cult can argue against facts, logic, and science the way they do. So I decided to do some research on the methods the Trump cult uses to argue against facts, logic, and science. Once you understand these arguments, they lose all their power in every conversation you have in the future. Here are the 5 tricks the Trump cult uses to try and exhaust you and make sure a real argument never happens. 1. The straw man. You point out that Trump started a war with
Well, folks, the Epstein story just got even worse for Donald Trump. I imagine that the White House was not pleased when they saw this story circulating around from a number of different publications, its authenticity also being verified by those publications. But we are, of course, talking about these new explosive allegations against Donald Trump that were recently released by the Department of Justice as part of the Epstein files. We're talking about this 13 to 15-year-old girl who accused Trump of assaulting her when she was around that age. She had 4 interviews with the FBI. The DOJ initially only released one of those interviews, which did not mention Donald Trump. The other 3, however, did. They were eventually released by the DOJ, and they contain very serious allegations. But the story just went even a step further, because now key details of the accuser's accounts have been verified by publicly available documents. Now, keep in mind, the White House has been going around saying,
Or even if he was reading from a fucking teleprompter, right? Which he wasn't. Did you hear any lies? Huh, MAGA? Did you hear any fucking lies? No.
it's a witch hunt. They have no evidence against Donald Trump. This story is complete crap. Well, some documents that are from the government and other sources would say otherwise. So we're going to talk about this story, get into it, and really dive in, because Donald Trump wants us to stop talking about the Epstein story. He would love nothing more. And my guarantee to you, my promise to you, is no matter what he does, whether it's in the United States or around the world, we're not going to move on. So let's get into it. So first and foremost,
I swear we're not moving on. We're going to talk about this shit every day. MAGA, get prepared.
I want to point out about this accuser that, number one, the Department of Justice and the FBI found her to be a credible accuser, found her to be credible generally in her interviews with the FBI. This is according to the Miami Herald.
Found her to be credible. Now, what does that mean exactly? Because it sounds like, to me, it's saying that she got some merit to the shit that she's saying. Sound like Trump was the liar in this.
A DOJ source told the Miami Herald that the agents found her to be credible among her 4 different interviews, and that they would not have interviewed her 4 times if they thought that she was lying. In the end, she declined to cooperate with their investigation, and they lost touch with her. And she actually said something similar to this in her interviews, saying, like, you know, I want to share this, but what's the point? Nothing's going to be done about it. Something along those lines. So you can kind of see her not be interested in cooperating not out of fear, out of hopelessness that something would be done. And just a brief reminder on the allegations, she said that when she was between the ages of 13 to 15 years old, Epstein took her off the island, flew her to...
So let me ask y'all this. Do Trump fuck this? We're going to do a new survey. since it's abundantly clear out of 662 votes, everybody thinks that people will celebrate when Trump either dies or leaves office. Huh. That's a wrap.
Either New Jersey or New York, and there she was introduced to someone in a big building with these big rooms. That person was Donald Trump. There were other people in that room. She could not recall the identities of the other individuals. However, they all exited when Trump asked everyone to leave the room. Trump mentioned something to the effect of, let me teach you little girls, let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be. Trump unzipped his area. He put her head down in his area. She bit it, according to her, and then he hit her, and that's the end of their interaction. So he tried to assault her. She actually bit him. And she also mentioned in this interview down here, which is really interesting, that Epstein and Trump talked about blackmailing people in front of her. So she's confident that Trump knew about the blackmail because he was engaging in conversations with her present. So those are some very serious allegations. And now accounts of her life, her backstory have been verified by a number of publications. Let's get into it. The woman who accused Donald Trump of abusing her when she was 13 provided several verifiable details about her life in interviews with the FBI. The woman detailed her alleged abuse by Trump and Epstein over 4 interviews that were kept initially secret by the DOJ. The Post and Courier reported that the woman gave FBI agents details about her family background and legal history, which the paper was able to verify as true. So now the DOJ, the FBI, declared her to be credible in their 4 different interviews with her. And now we also, as people, these different publications, are able to verify the information she gave to the FBI and the DOJ. It seems like, so far, there's a lot of evidence pointing to this girl, this woman, being a credible accuser. I don't know. All the signs are pointing to that. The South Carolina paper corroborated several aspects of the woman's life using archived government records and news reports, although none of the newly verified details relate directly to her accusations about Trump. It's more backstory about her. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told the Daily Beast in a statement that the woman's allegations are completely baseless and came from a sadly disturbed woman, that Donald Trump's FBI in 2019 deemed to be credible and interviewed 4 different times. And the only reason there wasn't further investigation into this that we know of is because she decided not to proceed, not the FBI deciding not to proceed. That's a major distinction. The newly corroborated details suggest the woman was truthful about numerous aspects of her life in the interviews. In her account to the FBI, the woman claimed that Trump forced...
Hey, y'all, real quick, what y'all think will be more celebrated? Trump leaving office, the big, beautiful obituary, jail, or the Epstein files being completely unsealed? The poll is up. Let's go.
Her to commit that act that we just discussed a moment ago, sometime around 1984. She said Epstein began abusing her and trafficked her to several men when she was between 13 and 15 after he responded to an advertisement for babysitting services her mother, a real estate agent in South Carolina, placed in a package she provided to her clients. The woman named one Ohio businessman as one of her abusers, describing him as a man with gray hair and big ears. She told agents she believed he was affiliated with a Cincinnati-based college. The Post and Courier reported that the unnamed Ohio businessman was a board member of the college, one of many details that was actually verified by them. The Daily Beast is not disclosing the woman's identity, of course, and that is the right thing to do. The woman told agents she only saw Epstein once in a non-sexual context, recalling a chance encounter at a Rick James concert in Savannah, Georgia, when she was about 15. Newspaper records confirm that James regularly performed in the Savannah area at the time, which would be a major coincidence that this one musician in this specific place just happened to be performing around the time she said that happened. That would be a very, very unlikely coincidence. You know what I mean? The woman also said that Epstein had blackmailed her with photos of her that her mother embezzled money from her.
Jeffrey Epstein went to fucking Rick James concerts? Wait a fucking minute, Jeffrey. Now, Rick James was on them young girls. Rick James was on them fucking young girls.
Employer in an attempt to pay him off around 1985. The mother did end up in federal prison near South Carolina, according to the woman, and records confirm that her mother was involved in a crime of this nature around that time, the Post and Courier reports. In addition, the mother's boss at the real estate firm pursued criminal charges against her, according to the paper, with records indicating that she was accused of stealing $22,000. Both the Trump accuser and her mother later settled on the West Coast. In the 2019 FBI interviews, the woman spoke of calls to her mother at an assisted living facility on the West Coast. And here's the thing. The Post and Courier reports that the mother listed a private nursing care home as an address in her later years, and that a Washington state death record matches the mother's age and name. So there are a lot of details here that are absolutely lining up with the truth, with things that you can verify via state documents, criminal charges, a death record, things like that, things that, you know, can't be faked in the system at least. And a lot of it is lining up. And so maybe this plays into why the FBI found her credible. I mean, one of her encounters with Epstein is entirely likely. This one artist performed in that time, at the time that she said it happened, and Donald Trump and his White House is calling her deranged. That's what they do. Silencing people. Of course, that's what they do. Alongside her accounts of alleged abuse by Epstein and other men in FBI interviews, the woman described allegedly getting trafficked to Trump. As we talked about just a moment ago, we read it. It is a very sensitive allegation.
I just want y'all to know how fucking disgusting this shit is.
We certainly don't need to read it again. It is skin-crawlingly gross. You know, that's not even a word, but you know what I mean. And her fourth,
like, let's be real. $1 billion and you still got buying pussy? Like, you should be able to attract women with $1 billion. If it ain't nothing but buying a bitch a nice handbag, you got to be a real creep to have all that fucking money and not know how to fucking please a woman. Hey, y'all, hit that like button if you know you whack as fuck. You can't get no pussy with $1 billion fucking dollars. Or $1 million, whatever. It's ridiculous.
In final interview, the files released by the DOJ indicate that the woman told investigators she felt discouraged about pursuing the allegations because the incidents had happened decades earlier. What's the point, she said, which is a heartbreaking thing. You know what I mean? When reached for comment on the newly verified details of the woman's account, Levitt provided the Daily Beast with a recycled statement. These are completely baseless accusations backed by zero credible evidence from a sadly disturbed woman who has an extensive criminal history. The total baselessness of these accusations is also supported by the obvious fact that Biden's DOJ knew about them for 4 years and did nothing with them because they knew Trump did absolutely nothing wrong, except now we read what the Miami Herald report. We read these interviews. That is absolutely not what happened. She said she didn't, or she at least indicated to the agents that she didn't want to cooperate, which does not mean that this did not happen. And of many of the details of her story are, of course, adding up. As we said countless times, she said Trump has been exonerated, which is completely not true. And of course, previously, the DOJ had only released the memo in which the woman accused Epstein. Following backlash, they eventually did put out all the interviews that they have, that we know they have. Maybe they have more. There's also many documents relating to this girl in particular that's missing, but in terms of the interviews, we have them. So, point is, a lot of her background details are verifiable. Details about her mother, her criminal history, where she might have met Epstein are verifiable. So Trump wants you to believe that this woman is a deranged psychopath who committed crimes and she's not to be trusted, except pieces of information, her accusations, the timing of her accusations, the details she provided the FBI seem to be lining up in a pretty suspicious way. So you can let me know what you think about this in the comments, if it's worthwhile digging into more, or if you don't think it's verifiable and, you know, whatever it might be. So let me know. I'm excited to hear from you. Make sure to subscribe down below as well. It goes an incredibly long way. As I said, not letting...
Oh, the sobbing and the crying as Samantha Palrine, a Massachusetts state police officer, hears the charges that she now faces.
Plymouth police officer Samantha Palrine and her husband Daniel Ferrand leaving Plymouth courthouse free on bail.
Sam, any comment?
And refusing to answer any questions.
Any comment on the allegations?
Hours before, the couple was cuffed and visibly shaken in the courtroom, facing a lengthy set of charges, accused of sexually assaulting a teenage boy over the course of several years.
This continues on with the three of them, with the alleged victim being forced to partake in these.
People, what is going on? What the fuck? Come on. What y'all want to say? Y'all want to say I'm pushing it? What about? And what about? What about the Democrats? What y'all gonna say? This shit is getting out of hand. This shit is beyond out of hand. Y'all know y'all done fucked up, right? Y'all know y'all done fucked up right.
Sexual encounters with Samantha and Daniel.
Well, just a couple of lovely, lovely people, aren't they? Samantha Pelrine and Daniel Forand. This is what they do, people. They plot this shit out. This couple taking in a completely homeless 12-year-old boy with no family. Yeah, welcome to your new house, youngster. Mom's a cop, and she's also a stone-cold fucking maggot freak. According to his affidavit, it was within a week that she came in his bedroom and started molesting him. Whatever it is that makes these oxygen thieves continue to operate, of
What's going on, MAGA? Please tell me.
Of course, Dad's got to get involved. Daniel Forand, the dad, who should at the very least be the line of defense in between danger and the child. Incidentally, Daniel Forand, the owner of Plymouth Pest Professionals. Interesting how I see on his website massive ads talking about protect your family from bugs. Here's the thing, Daniel. You are the pest on our world that needs to be eradicated. I wonder how the other Massachusetts state police officers feel about one of their own being blasted out for screwing a child. But you know, unlike other groups and fraternities,
Yeah, motherfuckers is wild, man. Wow.
I personally don't see any of these police departments handling their own. Oh, that's right. And let's not forget, she's on paid administrative leave while she's facing this trial. Always interesting to me when I see one of these sick, twisted, blubbering deviants in a courtroom sobbing and crying. And what's the matter, bitch? You got caught? Check this out. All that blubbering and crying is never going to change the fact that we see you. And you and your little fucking boo thing over here will never, ever be welcome in our society ever again. Oh, the sobbing and the crying as Samantha Pelrine, a Massachusetts state police officer, hears the charges that she now faces.
Plymouth police officer Samantha Pelrine and her husband Daniel Forand leaving Plymouth courthouse free on bail.
Sam, any comment?
And refusing to answer any questions.
Any comment on the allegations?
Hours before, the couple was cuffed and visibly shaken in the courtroom, facing a lengthy set of charges, accused of sexually assaulting a teenage boy over the course of several...
The fuck is going on? A man and a woman is assaulting a teenage boy. You bitches, boy, you make me sick.
years.
This continues on.
Take that bitch straight to the wood chipper.
The three of them, with the alleged victim being forced to partake in these sexual encounters with Samantha and Daniel.
Well, just a couple of lovely, lovely people, aren't they? Samantha Pelrine and Daniel Forand. This is what they do, people. They plot this shit out. This couple taking in a completely homeless 12-year-old boy with no family. Yeah, welcome to your new house, youngster. Mom's a cop, and she's also a stone-cold fucking maggot freak. According to his affidavit, it was within a week that she came in his bedroom and started molesting him. Whatever it is that makes these oxygen thieves continue to operate, of course, Dad's got to get involved. Daniel Forand, the dad, who should at the very least be the line of defense in between danger and the child. Incidentally, Daniel Forand, the owner of Plymouth Pest Professionals. Interesting how I see on his website massive ads talking about protect your family from bugs. Here's the thing, Daniel. You are the pest on our world that needs to be eradicated. I wonder how the other Massachusetts state police officers feel about one of their own being blasted out for screwing a child. But you know, unlike other groups and fraternities, I personally don't see any of these police departments handling their own. Oh, that's right. And let's not forget, she's on paid administrative leave while she's facing this trial. Always interesting to me when I see one of these sick, twisted, blubbering deviants in a courtroom sobbing and crying. And what's the matter, bitch? You got caught? Check this out. All that blubbering and crying is never going to change the fact that we see you. And you and your little fucking boo thing over here will never, ever be welcome in our society ever again. Oh, the sobbing and the crying as Samantha Pelrine, a Massachusetts state police officer, hears the charges that she now faces.
Plymouth police officer Samantha Pelrine and her husband Daniel Forand leaving Plymouth courthouse free on bail.
Sam, any comment?
And refusing to answer.
Fucking sickos.
I got a question for all you racist white women and all you racist poor white people. What do you think happens tomorrow if all of the black people and all of the brown people and anyone who is not white disappears? I'll tell you what happens. Racism is a mental illness that is governed by oppression and control. So all you poor white people, you gotta go. See, you don't fit the mold of an ideological white society. Those of you that don't end up dead, you'll end up imprisoned or pushed out of this society. And all you racist white women, trust that you would fare even worse. Because see, now you are exactly where they want you to be, alone with them, uncontrolled, uninfluenced by the masses. You are now property, and you will remain in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. And those children that you'll bear them, we all know that racism and pedophilia tends to go hand in hand, as they are both founded on oppression and control. And you will know your place, because the minute you attempt to speak up about anything that is happening to you or your children, it will beat you back into submission. Well, you know, those of you that they don't choose to murder. Your daughters will be taken and married off and abused. Your sons will be abused. And the craziest part of this entire scenario is the majority of you know this already. And yet the majority of you remain firmly on your knees, suckling at the teeny tiny dick of white male patriarchy. I got a question for all you racist white women and all you racist poor white people.
She just told
what do you
y'all
think
that.
happens tomorrow if all of the black people and all of the brown people and anyone who is not white disappears? I'll tell you what happens. Racism is a mental illness that is governed by oppression and control. So all you poor white people, you gotta go. See, you don't fit the mold of an ideological white society. Those of you that don't end up dead, you'll end up imprisoned or pushed out of this society. And all you racist white women, trust that you would fare even worse.
Y'all think this AI too?
Because see, now you are exactly where they want you to be, alone with them, uncontrolled, uninfluenced by the masses. You are now property, and you will remain in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. And those children that you'll bear them, we all know that racism and pedophilia tends to go hand in hand, as they are both founded on oppression and control. And you will know your place, because the minute you attempt to speak up about anything that is happening to you or your children, it will beat you back into submission. Well, you know, those of you that they don't choose to murder. Your daughters will be taken and married off and abused. Your sons will be abused. And the craziest part of this entire scenario is the majority of you know this already. And yet the majority of you remain firmly on your knees, suckling at the teeny tiny dick of white male patriarchy. I got a question for all you racist white women and all you racist poor white people. What do you
So is she racist, y'all? I want to know.
think happens tomorrow if all of the black people and all of the brown people and anyone who is not white disappears? I'll tell you what happens. Racism is a mental illness that is governed by oppression and control. So all you poor white people, you gotta go. See, you don't fit the mold of an ideological white society. Those of you that don't end up dead, you'll end up imprisoned or pushed out of this society. And all you racist white women, trust that you would fare even worse. Because see, now you are exactly where they want you to be, alone with them, uncontrolled, uninfluenced by the masses. You are now property, and you will remain in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. And those children that you'll bear them, we all know that racism and pedophilia tends to go hand in hand, as they are both founded on oppression and control. And you will know your place, because the minute you attempt to speak up about anything that is happening to you or your children, it will beat you back into submission. Well, you know, those of you that they don't choose to murder. Your daughters will be taken and married off and abused.
Donald Trump had another brilliant idea in his effort to combat the high cost of beef in this country. He said he was going to bring in 300,000 metric tons of ground beef, presuming you bring that in the country, and that lowers the price of beef. Now, you have to understand, Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about you or your budget. He's doing it for one reason, or at least he's talking about doing it for one reason, is because of the midterms. He knows high beef costs are going to be problematic for the Republicans in the midterms. And he's got to do some quick fix, because that's how Donald Trump does things. I'm not convinced he's bringing in any beef, that there was ever any beef to bring in. This is typical Donald Trump. Make some great statement and then not have it ever happen or end up getting fucked up. But the problem here is Donald Trump didn't account for the fact that his own people, the ranchers in this country, will be getting fucked in the process. He didn't care about that. He just wanted the quick fix for him now. And these ranchers are upset because they know if that beef comes in, they're done. So now we have ranchers coming out on TikTok saying, oh, we're struggling here. Well, how about if you just buy beef from us directly, straight from the farm? We're struggling here. We need your help, and we can get you the best beef.
That's what you dumb motherfuckers get.
Okay, that's free enterprise. If you want to do that, that's fine. But what's happening is people are coming to their comments and saying, who'd you vote for? If you voted for Donald Trump, you got what you voted for, fuck off. And these people are upset about that because Democrats aren't sympathetic to their plight. I saw one woman come out on a video saying, I can't believe no one cares or sympathetic just about politics. And that's where you're fucking wrong. We would normally be concerned about your plight, your financial issues, and feeding your children. But you have to remember what you voted for, also got children killed, got children kidnapped and put in detention camps, got American citizens killed on the streets of Minneapolis, left women dying in shopping mall parking lots. What you did when you voted for this is far more grievous and egregious than what you're suffering now. And we don't care about your suffering. And then they said, well, after seeing how Democrats act, I'll never vote for a Democrat. And see, that's the point I always make. I can't embrace you. I can't sympathize with you because I can't trust you. Once it gets tough, you jump back on the crazy train. So you stay on that fucking crazy train, sink with the rest of them, and the fittest will survive. Donald Trump had another brilliant idea in his effort to combat the high cost of beef in this country. He said he was going to bring in 300,000 metric tons of ground beef, presuming...
Do you want to win up to...
So the Trump regime is in full-blown panic mode over the Epstein files. That is so obvious to see, and there's no better sign than what happened today at Caroline Leavitt's press briefing, where reporters were asking her about developments in the Epstein case, and she just looked furious. She was desperate to move off the topic, and there really is no defense of Donald Trump. You can just see it in her face and listen to what she's saying. So I want to show you some clips from what Caroline Leavitt said earlier today. I have some other updates to give to you on the Epstein story. Before I do any of that, though, please make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. If you're on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to rate the show 5 stars and follow along. It goes an incredibly long way, and let's get into it. So first and foremost, I want to start here.
There has been some confusion here. I'm not MAGA. I've never been MAGA. When Trump came down the escalator in 2015, I was sickened that such a vile piece of human garbage could ever get on a political ticket, no less the presidential one. His moral failings alone excluded him from my vote. Even if you believed all the nonsense that they were pushing, that he was a good businessman and all the other crap, that's not true. He's been a fraud his entire life. For fuck's sake, he inherited $400 million and then wrote a book called Self-Made Millionaire. That tells you what kind of lying piece of shit he is. So, sorry, never been MAGA.
All right, guys, this is Scott Gagne, 33, out of Frankfort, New York. Came to meet our 12-year-old decoy. He is currently detained. Guys, this catch is being live streamed right now on kick.com for free. You guys can join up and join up on our locals where we post all our conviction updates and arrests and all that. His mugshot hopefully will be on there. And we'll see you guys on the next catch. Much love. All right, guys, this is Scott Gagne, 33, out of Frankfort, New York. Came to meet our 12-year-old decoy. He is currently detained. Guys, this catch is being live streamed right now.
Hi, folks. We have a massive update, probably the biggest one yet, in the ongoing mystery/drama of the sudden disappearance of Kentucky Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, whose longstanding absence from the U.S. Senate these past few weeks have absolutely screwed over Donald Trump and the Republicans, much to my delight. But the massive update is this. McConnell's governor, the Democratic governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, is now issuing a public ultimatum demanding that McConnell actually prove in a public appearance that he is fit to serve or calling for him to resign from office. And Beshear is also reaching out to the Republican leaders in the Senate demanding that they begin the expulsion process for McConnell unless McConnell proves he's fit enough.
Man, Mr. McConnell dead, man.
To serve. This is the closest thing to an escalation we are seeing from Governor Beshear, and I'm here for it, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, let's dive on in. Bashir slaps Mitch McConnell with ultimatum as questions about his health linger. Speak up or resign. Kentucky Governor Andy Bashir hit ailing Mitch McConnell with an ultimatum in his latest demand for transparency about the current state of his health. In a new letter sent to McConnell on Tuesday, Bashir's ultimatum is simple: speak up or resign. The letter came a day after McConnell's office released a proof-of-life photo of the senator alongside his wife, Elaine Chao, and wrote a vague update. Quote, "It's now been 43 days since news of your hospitalization," Bashir writes. Quote, "During that time, you have cast 0 votes, engaged in 0 official activities, and aside from 2 photos and corresponding statements, have made no effort to communicate with your Kentucky constituents or the nation. Quote, I'm calling on you to directly and verbally address the people of Kentucky and provide proof of your capacity to serve or resign." In a scathing final blow, Bashir said he would ask Senate Majority Leader John Thune to, quote, begin the process of expelling McConnell from the Senate. Quote, "If you are unwilling to voluntarily show that you still have the capacity to serve, I will insist Leader Thune fully investigate your condition, report to the American people, and begin the process if warranted," the governor wrote. Damn. A message left from McConnell's office was not immediately returned on Tuesday. It's the second time this month Bashir has demanded answers from McConnell. In the first, dated July 8th, Bashir said, quote, "As governor, I request that you fully update Kentuckians regarding the current status of your health. Quote, as public office holders, we have made a commitment to our constituents to do our best to represent them and to always be transparent. I believe this requires clear communication about one's ability to serve." In response to that letter, McConnell's office released the following statement. Quote, "Senator McConnell appreciates the outpouring of support he's receiving while he continues his recovery in the hospital. The senator continues to improve, and is working closely with his staff on Kentucky and Senate matters while the Senate is out of session." McConnell, 84, was rushed to the hospital on June 14th after he was reportedly found unconscious in his Washington, D.C. home. Donald Trump, of course, says he has no idea what the hell's going on with McConnell, even though McConnell's absence is absolutely screwing him over. The Daily Beast also noting that McConnell faces backlash over propped-up staged photos. The one here that you see closest to me is the most recent one, looking like his wife, Elaine Chao, is basically propping him up. Mitch McConnell's office released a new photo of the 84-year-old on Monday, but it's already getting pushback for not being solid evidence of, quote, proof of life. No video has been released of the senator, despite demands that he reassure voters he's on course for recovery.
The clarid file of one of many cities that existed in ancient Tartaria, where it can also be seen that its inhabitants were of black origin, what was apparently an indigenous people of this great civilization. A wonderful culture that disappeared after the reset. The technology of the ancient empire of Tartaria was so incredible that it left many nations surprised. This could have been the reason why they preferred to erase Tartaria from history. Since if Tartaria had existed in our days, perhaps the world would be very different, and the history of humanity that we knew would actually be another story. Since the current history they teach us today...
Let's watch this video.
White people did not exist on planet Earth until 1681. Number 2, any claim that this group called white people, any claim that that group is rooted in biology or derived from genes or biology or is innate or is from nature is a lie. Third and final point. As a matter of foundational law, actually let me say it this way, white supremacy has been embedded in the United States of America from its founding as a matter of law. Now, I don't expect you to buy all that, to get all that, to believe all that, at least not now. But my job is to share with you the legal history that proves each of those 3 claims that I begin with. So let's go.
When the truth comes out,
not again.
Evil can't.
Multiple students reported that Thomas made inappropriate contact with them. He was placed on administrative leave after allegations surfaced.
Truth is shown.
He's charged with 8 counts of possibly 8 total victims. Oh my God.
Over the lies that
He turned himself in and was booked and
Want to feel more confident about investing? Robinhood.
that's terrible, y'all.
Download Robinhood to get started.
When the truth comes out, evil can't hide. When the truth is shown over the lies, that's when shame changes.
Lord County Jail.
So you know the world is upside down and that things are not going well for the orange buffoon when you see a video of Nick Fuentes and you are agreeing with pretty much everything that he says about Donald Trump. So I'm going to play for you this clip that I came across and tell me if there's anything that Nick Fuentes says that you disagree with. But before I get to that, just a couple other things.
I got to get in on this.
This is Matt McKean, co-founder and CEO of Frontierist North America. It is my privilege to introduce you to this virtual rendering of our first
You can run Donald, but you can hide. Trump's delay efforts backfiring in his face in court. The latest, he's scrambling and running to the United States Supreme Court on Russia, Donald. Remember the case where Donald Trump sued Hillary Clinton and like 32 other people in the Southern District of Florida, alleging a massive RICO conspiracy to frame Donald Trump regarding a relationship with Putin that Donald Trump swore never existed. Fast forward, didn't Donald Trump meet in Alaska with Putin? I mean, the guy's the biggest Putin bootlicker. We could see it right now. In any event, back 3-4 years ago, Donald Trump lost miserably in his lawsuit filed against Hillary Clinton and 31 other people. The great Alina Habba, I'm saying that sarcastically, of course, was Donald Trump's lawyer. The federal judge sanctioned Trump and Habba of about $1 million for a frivolous case. And since that time, Donald Trump has been delay. So here we are approaching fall 2026, and Donald Trump rushed to the United States Supreme Court seeking his second 30-day extension for his petition to overturn the $1 million sanction on his attorneys for the Russiagate RICO lawsuit that he brought in federal court. The motion cites the press of urgent business for Donald Trump and a slew of other litigation that he's involved in. Donald Trump saying, I'm just too busy right now and I'm dealing with all of these other urgent matters. I don't know. Last time I checked, you just like every week sue somebody else for $10 billion. That's your choice, bud. When you sue the BBC for $10 billion, then run away from basic discovery and from actually participating in the litigation, no sympathy for you. It just shows what a loser you are. And now you have the Trump family members, Ivanka and Jared and Eric and Don Jr., etc. They are hiding behind the Secret Service in order to not be served with deposition subpoenas. And the Secret Service is like, they can't be deposed. We just have to protect. We're just going to block the process server and try to run out the clock. Again, it's just Trump's loser behavior. Second 30-day extension. You're a loser. Just litigate the cases. Just, I was a litigator. Meet your deadlines. File your freaking documents and shut up and stop being a whiny, pathetic baby. It's ridiculous. And so here's the Supreme Court petition, the second request for a delay. It's Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton et al. And it goes on to say, this case involves a series of fundamental legal errors by the District Court and the Court of Appeals, which underlie the dismissal of Trump's civil RICO and injurious falsehood claims. as well as the improper imposition of extreme sanctions on petitioner for having filed the civil complaint. These questions are exceptionally important, but because of the press of urgent business by the lead petitioner, the President of the United States, along with the need for counsel to confer with petitioners regarding the content and scope of the position and the conflicting scheduling demands.
You can now trade on tennis live directly on Polymarket. Choose your position and live stream while you live trade all in one.
Of petitioner's counsel, granting additional time will greatly serve the interest of justice. The press of other matters faced by undersigned counsel, including other matters for President Trump, makes submission of the petition difficult, absent the requested extension. Petitioner's counsel face numerous direct appeal briefing, trial court, and hearing deadlines prior to the present date for the petition, including, and then it gives all of these whiny deadlines right over here. And if you can't meet the deadline, then don't file it. It's your deadline. It's your filing. And so while you have that going on, you have the BBC saying, okay, you may have refiled your lawsuit, Donald, against us instead of actually produce discovery. We're not going away. We're going to file another motion to dismiss. We're going to propound and serve you more discovery. We're going to push forward with our case. And so the BBC in that case moves to dismiss Trump's new claim where Trump says, my businesses weren't harmed. My reputation was harmed for $10 billion. That's why you can't do discovery on my businesses. It's a $10 billion reputation claim, even though Donald Trump, since he's been in office, has made billions and billions of dollars. He's been injured $10 billion by a random BBC documentary, which didn't even air in the United States on Panorama in the UK. I want to bring in Harry Littman from the Talking Feds Substack podcast and YouTube channel. Harry, yet again, we see this loser behavior. He files lawsuits all of the time, vexatious, frivolous in this case, adjudicated as such by a court. And then when he brings these as a private citizen, he then wants to cloak himself in, oh, but now I'm too busy. I'm doing things as the president. You're a litigant. You filed a lawsuit. You don't get you don't get special treatment. I mean, you're a snowflake. You want a participation trophy? You filed a litigation demanding billions of dollars. You lost. Or in the case of BBC, you filed a lawsuit for billions of dollars. The other side's going to fight back. Turn over the documents to prove your damages and to prove your claims, or don't file the lawsuit. Nobody forced you to file your stupid lawsuit. You filed it. And you just look at this behavior, Harry, over and over again. It's like, man, it's pathetic. Again, not as a Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's like, this is how losers behave. This is how the whiniest, most pathetic litigants behave. And the fact that that's what's going on in the Oval Office, man, it's really, really, it's devastating for the United States of America.
The guy is like a Hall of Fame pompous windbag. And you're 100% right. He brings suit after suit after suit, and it's like he is the living definition of vexatious, and he does it without regard to the merits. I don't know. We've seen him sue everyone under the sun. The only ones that he's really succeeded at are where he's shaken down kind of corruptly corporate interests who want to placate him and be on the good side. But all of them are garbage lawsuits, and he's a garbage litigant and has been from way back. And going along with it, he just wants, it's true, to delay. Sometimes there's something specific you can see. This is actually, remember the motion they filed just before the whole collusive settlement in the IRS case. He's not going for merits. He's somehow got something up his sleeve or wants to keep the people on the other side from getting, off the hook. He is, first of all, in his personal capacity here, and it's just, let me say, as
Barack Obama had big part of 9/11.
Which part?
Not being around, always on vacation, never in the office.
Why do you think Barack Obama wasn't in the Oval Office on 9/11?
That I don't know. We'd like to get to the bottom of that. Barack Obama had big part of 9/11.
That motherfucker wasn't in office.
Which part?
Now, we have all known for a long time that former...
The United States is often referred to in our sectors.
Part of what's curious about this situation is we stood here with you in April when you first revealed the plans.
I said what?
In April, you showed us pictures of what you were going to do at the pool, and you said you had a guy who was going to do it in a week for about $1 million.
Well,
It's been 2 months for $16.5 million.
Yeah, okay, ready? Barack Hussein Obama, have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
He spent 2 years and over $100 million on trying to fix it. You know what happened to it? Never even opened.
Right.
He took the water for the river. You know about that, right? It turned out to be putrid, and it destroyed the whole thing. Spent over $100 million. Him and Biden together spent $147 million. You know what happened? Never opened. You don't mention that, right?
But to Phil's
we spent about 10.
Part of what's curious about this situation is we stood here with you in April when you first revealed...
Obama, did you see Barack Hussein Obama last night?
The Barack Hussein Obama catastrophe.
It's really like the Barack Hussein Obama one in Chicago. And not a good location.
A gentleman name is Barack Hussein Obama. He said, what do you think of President Obama's speech?
You go, Barack Hussein Obama.
Barack Obama. I watched him speak today.
Barack Hussein Obama, have you ever heard of him?
Problem for Trump is that everyone's heard the name and they still like him much more than they've ever.
I believe in face-to-face. Look, you got to ask him what it is that
the obsession.
The obsession.
I know what it is.
I obviously, have a room in his head.
Rent free. You do everything with grace.
A suite in. In his head. But the thing about it is that was always clear to me. Look, but first of all, when I was
Yeah, you say that, but your man took a wooden tent stake up his ass like a woman. Trump he's been implicated with little boys. Did you know that? You won't hear that about this president. And one thing about Trump, he ain't never gonna be Barack Obama. He'll never be as loved. He will never be as celebrated. He will never be as articulate. He will never be as cool. Nothing. He can't even fart better than Barack Obama, man. Get the fuck out of here.
The last thing I had time to do was worry about what
somebody said,
or what my predecessor did.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone. I've got work to do.
You locked in.
It's hard to describe if you're doing the job right.
Mm-hmm.
Every day
whatever YouTube paying, motherfucker.
Got 5-10 things that are real hard, and you have to be constantly focused. The idea that I'd be worrying about
growing outrage to a video that President Trump posted last night on his Truth Social page. It featured racist imagery of former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle, depicting them as apes. Many lawmakers, including Republicans, are calling the clip offensive.
I do want to point out comments from Tim Scott. He is a...
Man, don't nobody care about that shit. All that shows is he's just a fucking no-class idiot with more hair on his back than Barack could ever dream of having. Trust and believe that. Sweaty, hairy back.
Republican senator. He's the only black Republican in the Senate. He's also the head of the Senate GOP's campaign arm, so he has a very critical position in the Senate, and he rarely pushes back against President Donald Trump because the White House initially defended this video. Carolyn Leavitt saying in a statement that this was something that they were just kind of trying to compare to the Lion King, and she also implored the media to stop with the, quote, fake outrage. But after all of this pushback, they ultimately did remove the post, and not only only that, but then a White House official said that it was a staffer, blaming it on a staffer, and said it was erroneously posted.
Growing outrage to a video that President Trump posted last night on his Truth Social page. It featured racist imagery of former President Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle, depicting them as apes. Many lawmakers, including Republicans, are calling the clip.
If you look, for 47 years, they've been tapping people along, presidents. Every president got tapped along, didn't do anything, and they became more and more powerful. This should have been done 47 years ago. Shouldn't have been allowed to start. But Clinton let him go, and Bush let him go. Everybody let him go, and Obama was the worst of all because Obama actually went to their side. Obama, because, you know, he's a... Well, let's not say. Let's leave that for another time. He was terrible. And he allowed Iran to... But he gave them $1.7 billion in cash, in green cash, put in satchels in an airplane and brought to Iran. $1.7 billion in.
We stood here with you in April when you first revealed the plans.
I said,
We've got some really big news right now. Vote Vets, which is the largest Democratic veterans group in the entire country, has launched a massive multi-million-dollar campaign to educate Americans about the illegal war in Iran and its impact on the cost of living here in the United States of America. The veterans group has now put up nearly 1,000 of these billboards across the country, including in the following 10 key target states: Ohio, New York, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, Florida, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia. This is all part of Vote Vets' effort for the Iran Accountability Campaign. And the goal is simple: reach as many veterans as they can across the country, specifically around military bases in the United States of America. Why? So the veterans know who to, quote, blame for this war. And right now there's a major push, a major monetary push behind it all. Let me know if you see it on the ground. Spread the word. Follow for more. We've got some really big news right now. Vote Vets, which is the largest Democratic veterans group in the entire country, has launched a massive multi-million-dollar campaign to educate Americans about the illegal war in Iran and its impact on the cost of living here in the United States of America. The veterans group has now put up nearly 1,000 of these billboards across the country, including in the following 10 key target states: Ohio, New York, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, Florida, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia. This is all part of Vote Vets' effort for the Iran Accountability Campaign. And the goal is simple: reach as many veterans as they can across the country, specifically around military bases in the United States.
You talking about home of the gays? Obama would have did your wife in, and she would have loved it.
States of America. Why? So the veterans know who to, quote, blame for this war. And right now there's a major push, a major monetary push behind it all. Let me know if you see it on the ground. Spread the word. Follow for more. We've got some really big news right now. Vote Vets, which is the largest Democratic veterans group in the entire country, has launched a...
I freaking love this. U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, who spent 44 years.
Flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 7 times. He pled the 5th 97 times. He has 34 felony convictions from 91 criminal charges, 26 assault accusations, 6 bankruptcies, 5 draft deferments, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments. He ran a fake university and a fake charity that were both shut down as he was sued for fraud. This man bankrupted a casino 4 times. He's paid $25 million in fraud settlements and $400 million from defamation judgments, $96 million from the assault judgments. Think about it, y'all. This man has had to spend over $500 million in his lifetime to keep himself from going to prison for the rest of his life for harming and abusing people, mostly women. And y'all think he's a good man. Donald Trump flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 7 times. He pled the 5th 97 times. He has 34 felony convictions from 91 criminal charges, 26 assault accusations, 6 bankruptcies, 5 draft deferments, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments. He ran a fake university and a fake charity that were both shut down as he was sued for fraud. This man bankrupted.
Looks like we might get another 8-year prison sentence for a January 6th insurrectionist.
This is Jacob Fracker and Thomas Roberts. This is a sergeant with the Rocky Mount Police Department in Virginia. He's also, or was, a police officer with the Rocky Mount Police Department in Virginia. This man pled guilty, said that late night drinking, falling down rabbit holes of conspiracy theories led him to radicalization. He's sorry for everything that he did and only got probation. This man stuck to his guns, said a jury would free him, I guess, and they did not. He's also accused of stolen valor. He told prosecutors that he was an Army Ranger. He was not. He told a reporter that he had gotten a Purple Heart. He did not. Both lost their jobs, but he got probation and he's about to get 8 years in prison. And like I say, no honor among thieves. Fracker testified against Roberts. Looks like we might get another 8-year prison sentence for a January 6th insurrectionist. This is Jacob Fracker and Thomas Roberts. This is a sergeant with the Rocky Mount Police Department in Virginia.
Then we're going to open up a bronze pack and a gold pack on normal odds to see what we can pull. First one is the bronze. Spin. We're going to stop right there. Let's see what we get.
Okay, this is really bad, and it is so much worse than I think people realize. I was just listening in to the Todd Blanche hearing on the Epstein files where he didn't even bother to show up. He sent other lawyers from the DOJ. The judge is furious, and he just took a 15-minute recess. The DOJ is refusing to release the handwritten notes of the FBI interview concerning Trump and the assault of a 13-year-old girl. And the reason they are not releasing that handwritten note is because they said it could expose victims. And then they also said that any man that came to them with counsel and declared themselves a victim, they honored that. Do we understand what's going on here? This is a cover-up directly for the President of the United States. And the DOJ told the judge they have no intention of complying with the Epstein law. The judge asked them over and over again, why didn't you show up today in court with the information we want you to show up with? And they said, well, we didn't understand it. So the judge said, okay, how many more days do you need? And they said, we won't do it. I need people to understand that what I listened to today tells me that the DOJ is covering up for the President of the United States inside an FBI interview where he assaulted a 13-year-old girl. They're refusing to release the document. I'll be going over more of it, but I don't understand how the rest of the public isn't screaming about this every single day of every single minute. Okay, this is really bad, and it is so much worse than I think people realize. I was just listening in to the Todd Blanche hearing on the Epstein files where he didn't even bother to show up. He sent other lawyers from the DOJ. The judge is furious.
Jeffrey Epstein owned 7,500 acres. That was his private property.
So why did I buy a ranch in New Mexico in 1993? So that gives you some sense. So I would have funded it in 1990. Los Alamos, which was the high energy lab up in New Mexico, was losing all its scientists.
Surrounding his property on 3 sides was another 1,244 acres of state-owned land, public land that belongs to the people of New Mexico. And he didn't own that. He rented it from the state for $872 a year, which is crazy cheap if you think about it. But here's the catch. The only legal reason the state could lease that land was for cattle grazing. The whole point of those leases is to generate revenue for New Mexico's public schools by letting ranchers run cattle on what would otherwise be empty land. So really, all Jeffrey Epstein had to do was put a bunch of cows out there and let them eat some grass and do their cow thing. Now, the state of New Mexico had one job that they had to do every few years for this. They had to go out and figure out if Epstein was actually putting cows on that leased land, or if he was using that land for something else, which would revoke the lease and take that land from him. And when I say something else, I just mean basically there's no cows on the land. Okay, that's basically all he would have to be doing, because I and a lot of other people don't think he was using that land for anything. He was just using it as a buffer so that nobody could get close to his compound. Why? Why did he not want anybody to get close or to, be able to access it easily? That's the question that's very important, because you can say people want privacy. Yeah, sure. But you already have a ton of land, 7,500 acres. So you can already put your compound in the middle of that and you'd be pretty far out from everyone else. This, additional acreage was just extra room, a moat around the land he owned. Now, for 6, the New Mexico state inspector tried to go and do their job at Epstein's land. They got turned away.
This guy in the orange prison jumpsuit with the matching silver shackles.
Of his career, trying to do away with the Voting Rights Act, a goal that he achieved.
Having court there. Not cool to be going for his second petition.